catch me if you can. And when you're running away, with a clap I'll make you stay. Where the loud cicadas cry, where the tracks ahead all die. I cannot hear the sound of your voice anymore. Come take me by the hand. If you follow my command, your fingers lace with mine. Things seek and ye shall find. With a loud cicadas cry, in the forest black as night. Keep running through the dark. You can never return. When on the sun, come and catch me if you can. And when you're running away, with a clap I make you stay. With a loud cicadas cry, when the tracks ahead all die. I cannot hear the sound of your voice anymore.
Hey everybody, good evening, happy Sunday, and welcome to a brand new week. That was a cover of the Higurashi opening made by Carolyn Makes Music. Go check out her channel. Yeah, she did a really good job with that. How's everybody doing on this dark and spooky night? Hello X-Dude, hello Inputs, hello DX, hello Nate. Hey Mobius, welcome to you all. Yes, it's gonna be interesting tonight. I think we're going to arrive at the Watanagashi Festival, which is where things generally start picking up in terms of the plot. Here's hoping. Hopefully we don't get anything as cringy as what we got last time. That's what I'm hoping for. It's almost Halloween. I know, it's the 20th of October. I don't know how that happened, but, well, here we are. It's great. Seriously, like at this rate, it's going to be 2025, and I'm going to be wondering where all the time went. Because it feels like it was just July last week. I don't know what's been going on, but maybe I'm just getting old. So here we are. We're continuing with Chapter 3 of Higurashi When They Cry. So, last time, we met Creepy Coach. I don't like him. We played baseball and kind of blackmailed the, super good pitcher to throw the game. Not really. We just kind of took advantage of a very weird, thing about him. And we're just like, hey, it's not that bad. I'm the same way. And he's like, oh, man, a kindred spirit. Yeah, I'll throw the game. That's all I'm summarizing because I'm not actually going into the details of what that is because it was really weird. Also, it seems like Shion and Rena are going crazy again. So cool. Yeah, anyhow, we're continuing. I think we are trapped in a space-time anomaly, or at the very least, it's a new dimension every single time we seem to be playing. Hey, it's Mom!
あら、ゆうべは何時に寝たの?
Irrelevant. I did not sleep well last night at all. My mother could tell from a single glance. I had the worst dreams. Nightmares. Very ominous dreams, one after the other, again and again. I woke up after each one, but could never even remember a fraction of what they had been about. But it was like those dreams were predicting something unpleasant. And I woke up in a terrible mood. Hey now. Every day has been calm and fun before today, right? Those days should continue on, unchanging. Uh-huh. And yet, anxiety was the only emotion growing within me. Why was that? Nightmares reflect your own anxiety. They show an uneasy mind, that which you wouldn't admit to normally. Yesterday, I remembered the ominous conversations about Satoshi I had, with Shion, Mion, and Rena. Right. My mind felt like it was in a black fog, because we had talked about that. I know! Like, the coach seemed great, and then he starts talking for more than 5 seconds. You're just like, oh, you should be on a list somewhere. Oh boy. If I lived every day without causing a fuss, my reward would be ever more peaceful days. I understood that. So why did I cause such discord? But now that I thought about it calmly, a simple verbal slip on my part couldn't possibly change the world. Yeah. As long as I'm sorry about doing it, and never talk about it again, there's nothing that anyone can blame me for, right? Besides, how would my fate possibly change, just because I talked about that? Nothing was going to change. Yeah. Nothing would change. Nothing would change. Nothing would change.
気持ち悪い笑い。
You better stop that.
寝ぼけてるなら顔を洗ってらっしゃい。
Keiichi, don't give slasher smiles to people. Hey, Proxima! Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I'm doing well. I just, October's going by way too quickly. I finally cheered up enough to smile, and Mom slapped me right back down. Now I was irritated again. Woo! Yay, Majora's Mask. That's a good one. There wasn't much time left before I had to meet up with Rena. I frantically started to get ready to go to school.
いってらっしゃい。車に気をつけるのよ。
気をつけるほど車もいないよ。南沢には。
It's true. One of the perks of living in a small town, not as much traffic. I dashed out the front door. The morning air was far more refreshing than the water on my face. That's right, Keiichi Maibara. If you're sorry enough about it and reflect upon your mistakes, that's enough. Now, let's pull yourself together and get to school. And return to fun, enjoyable days. Where everyone laughs, plays, and just has a good time. It'll be nice to see Satoko as an apology as well. Or I'll be nice to Satoko as an apology too. Yeah. Wasn't I supposed to be her Nini until Satoshi got back? Well, that was a little weird thing to promise. She just appeared when it was white. I don't know if that was a glitch or intentional, but it's a little creepy. Hey, Rena, did you take your meds today? Rena, too, looked nothing like she had yesterday when she said that weird stuff. If I could only forget, then I could still act like nothing had happened. So I called out to her with all the energy I could muster.
おう、おはようレナ。相変わらず早いな。
Let's go! Okay, yeah, I think she took her meds. I think
Ohio!
we're good. Young boy, who's saying that?
おはようございます。
There was a little time before the same old morning homeroom began. But Satoko and Rika-chan were unusually absent. Maybe they went to play somewhere. However, looking over and seeing none of their things, so it looked like they really hadn't come to school. They're playing hooky.
あれれあの二人が遅刻なんて珍しいね。
Rena seemed to be enjoying herself thinking about what their excuse for being late would be. Mion said something nonsensical as well, imagining how funny the reason they were late must have been. I had only come to school to see their energetic faces, since I figured it would get rid of these feelings I have. But the load on my chest remained where it was. It wasn't very pleasant at all.
おはようござい
Oh
ます。
yeah,
皆さん
it's best girl.
委員長、号令。起立。
Teacher Chiapet, let's go. Our teacher had finally arrived. Then, finally, I heard the pitter-patter of footsteps running down the hall. Clatter. Rika was the first one to run through the open door. And then Satoko didn't come.
遅刻ですよ、フルデさん。
Rika, did Satoko fall down the well and we have to save her?
北条さんはどうしましたか？
It was unusual for Rika to be late, but equally unusual for Satoko, a ball of energy, to be absent at all. Someone should do a welfare check. Nope, she's fine. Rika is, well, maybe, judging by her frown, maybe not, but what about Satoko? Everyone's eyes were wide at the series of strange events.
さとこはちょっと遅れるかもしれないのです。
熱でも出ちゃいましたか？
The teacher walked over to Rika, and they started talking in hushed tones.
リカちゃんが遅刻でサトコが欠席なんて珍しいこともあるもんだよ。
If that's the weirdest thing that happens that day, that's a pretty normal day.
そうだね。だけどさとこちゃんどうしたんだろう。
She's probably adding a 15th trap to the forest.
風邪かな。
Why now, when I wanted most to see Satoko's energetic face? The unease that had been building since last night tightened with my chest.
ケイちゃんは心配しすぎ。
Uh-huh.
年頃の女の子にはね、どうしても体の都合で具合が悪くなっちゃう時があるの。
Especially if you eat some bad meat. If you're eating meat that's expired, that's probably gonna cause you to get sick.
みーちゃん、それ男の子の前で言うことじゃないよ。
As far as I can tell, what they're referencing wouldn't be enough to keep people away from school. Oh, but she just said maybe it will be late. Okay, that's fine. Mion laughed indecently. Normally I would laugh along with her, but right now I just didn't feel like it. Probably because it's not really funny. Keiichi's just developing an actual sense of humor. Homeroom ended, and we talked to Rika in the short time we had before first period started.
よーリカちゃん、遅刻して怒られてかわいそうだな。
Teacher didn't yell at her, she's just like, oh hey, why are you late?
今日は俺がなでなでしてあげよ
Don't be creepy. I was very aware of my gloom this morning, so I strove to keep my tone cheerful. I petted Rika's head the same way that she always did, but she didn't cheer up at all. Probably because that's freaking weird to do.
みー、
I am aware that it was a menstrual cycle joke, DX.
う。さとこはどうし
I
たん
was
だ？
just saying it wasn't funny.
風邪か？
For instance, she got a fever from playing around too much yesterday. If that had been her response, I would have accepted it in a flash.
うん。
But the atmosphere around Rika felt somehow heavy. It was a little weird, and actually made my unease worse.
ほらほらほら、男の子には話せない事情ってのもあるんだから。ケイちゃんはお席へ戻って。
Mion, acting just like a club president, pulled me back to my chair. Rika's gaze immediately fell back to her desk, and she hung her head gloomily. Rika had said something odd, that Satoko might be a little bit late. They were living together, weren't they? Then she would have known for sure. She wouldn't have said might. I didn't understand why she was absent, and that made me all the more anxious. Damn it, what's going on today? It's like we started off on the wrong foot and it wasn't going to get any better.
どうしたのかな、ケイチくん。今日はなんだか朝から元気ないよ。
Rena noticed how I looked and whispered to me while the teacher wasn't looking.
そんなに俺元気ないか？
うん。見てるレナまで元気がなくなるくらいに。
I thought of jokingly saying, "Don't look at me," but I didn't even feel like doing that.
レナに話せること？どんな悩みかわからないけど、聞いて力になれることなら聞くよ。
That actually wasn't Rena who went crazy last night. It was her clone, Rona. Yeah, Rona was the one who did that. I won't tease you. Rena said this, looking me straight in the eye.
昨日まで何も変なことなんか起きなくて楽しかったんだ。
Just like, Rena, did you take your pills this morning? Huh? Rena's eyes widened for a moment, not understanding what I meant, but she remained silent and listened.
穏やかで楽しくて毎日が賑やかで、そんな毎日が繰り返されることに何の不安もなかった。
うん、そうだね。毎日楽しいよ。きっと今日も楽しくなる。
絶対にそうなるって自信が持てるか？
Because I found Colonel Sanders in the dump. I want you to help me get it. Not again!
うん。
Rena, feeling perplexed, couldn't think of something to say. I didn't blame her. What I was trying to say seemed a little confusing, even to me.
思えばここ最近不安だったんだ。毎日が楽しいからこそある日ふっと真っ暗になってしまうんじゃないかって。
Well, we can replace the light bulb.
うん。その気持ち、ちょっぴりレナもわかるよ。
Rena nodded gently.
私たちはいいことばかりは続かないってずっと教えられてきたから。
Yeah, that's fair.
楽しいことの裏側を時々恐れるよね。
Well, sometimes the fun is a little bit deranged.
それってちょっぴり悲しいことだけど、でもそのおかげで私たちは
Oh
楽し
yeah,
い
we
毎
never
日
had
が
to
ず
do
っ
the
と
punishment
続く
game
ように
last night.
努力することを覚えたんだよ。
そうだな。
だからケイチくんが楽しい日々がいつまでも続かないかもしれないって思うのは決して悪いことじゃないと思うよ。例えば 明日突然火山が大爆発して
That's weirdly
私たちが
specific.
全員死んじゃうとする。
There are no active or inactive volcanoes in the Hinamizawa region, are there, Rena? Yeah, there is! There are!
お
Believe
い
it!
おい、物騒な話だな。
例えばその大災害をケイチ君だけが生き残ったとしたら
I'd feel like
ど
a
う感
winner.
じる？
どうって。
She's like, ha! I'm special! No, just kidding. I imagined myself being that sole survivor in the ruins of Hinamizawa. Rubble and the bodies of friends lying in heaps at my feet. It was such an abhorrent sight. Was it sadder that all my friends had died? Or was it sadder that I couldn't have died with them? I didn't know which, but I'd probably cry a lot.
胸が張り裂けるだろうな。まず泣くと思う。
そしてこう思うんじゃないかな。こうなることが運命だったなら昨日までの日をもっともっと楽
Rena's
し
just
く
living every day like it's
悔
her
いなく
last
過
day.
ごせばよかったって。
I didn't want to consider such a horrible event to be my destiny. But
思うだろうな。
楽しい毎日がいつか終わるものならだったらたとえ明日そうなっても悔いがないように精一杯楽しく生きるのが正解じゃないのかな。
そうだな。
それに気づくのはとても難しいこと。多くの人たちは日々の幸せに飽食してるよ。今日と同じ明日が訪れると信じきってるから、今日できることを明日に送る。今日してやれる優しさを明日に送ってしまう。
Rena was usually cheerful and silly, but right now she wasn't like that at all. She was taking my troubles seriously. It was a little reassuring.
でもケイチ君はそれに気づけた。それはとても素敵なことだと思う。だからその不安な気持ち大切にしてもいいと思うの。
この不安を大切に。
I could do that.
そう、明日には大災害でみんな死んじゃうかもしれない。
Rena's good at doing that, actually.
だから今
Just
日
calling people out.
みんなにいっぱい優しくしよう。
Sometimes she does it nicer than other times.
本当に週末が訪れた時後悔しないために。
レナは実践してるのか。明日みんなが死んじゃっても後悔しないようにさ。
Yeah, because I know everyone will die tomorrow. It was such a hyperbolic conversation, but Rena just gave me a nonchalant nod of her head.
レナは楽しい毎日がたった一日を境に終わってしまうことを知ってるから。
Backstory.
今日が楽しくても明日も楽しい保証なんかないって知ってるから。
Tomorrow's the mathematics exam. It won't be fun.
生きてるよ精一杯。
It seemed like Rena perfectly understood all the anxiety I couldn't put into words. And on top of that, like a reliable teacher, she showed me what to do. Ooh. Hey, Keiichi Maibara. There's no need to cry now.
ゆうべ聡子の夢を見た気がするんだ。どんな夢だったかは思い出せないけど、朝からずっ
A
と
premonition?
不安で。
さとこちゃんの元気な顔を見れたら安心するつもりだった
That's putting it mildly.
かな。
She was right on the money. If everyone had been there with smiles on their faces this morning, then the murk in my heart would have definitely been blown to smithereens.
じゃあさとこちゃんが来たら優しくしてあげることだね。
Easier said than done.
いつもの悪ふざけでも一向に構わない。楽しく過ごすことができるなら。
そうだな。
So that even if these fun days came to an end, I'd have no regrets. I couldn't tell if what Rena told me had been comforting or just made me more anxious. But it was enough to make me think that if I saw Satoko again, I'd be honest with her. Damn cicadas. Lunchtime arrived, with everyone pushing their desks together like always. Satoko wasn't here. Despite that, we had bento boxes for 5 lined up on our desks. Who brought 2 bentos? Rika had made a bento for Satoko too. Oh, okay. There we go.
さとこ、お昼までには来るはずだったの？
Look, sometimes... No, I'm not going to finish that. Rika, if little Timmy fell down the well, you have to tell us. I don't care if they dared you not to. Rika was clearly acting strangely. We were talking to her, but it felt like she was too far away to hear us. Hey, Rika! I'd never seen Rika so downcast. So, the rest of us started feeling down too. Hey, Rena. I understood what she said before pretty well. When we were together, we were supposed to have lots of fun, so we wouldn't have any regrets if the world ended tomorrow. And yet, while I just resolved myself to do it, now we can't all be together. What the hell? Because it was just so sudden, wasn't it? I mean, yesterday was fun, so who could believe it would all end today? No volcanoes had erupted, and no earthquakes or fires had happened either! The cicadas were making the same noises they did yesterday, and the sun remained bright in the sky. It was the same normal day as always. So then, why? As I pondered, Rena's chopsticks reached in front of my face and stole the fried chicken out of my bento. Rena, I will fight you for that.
みんなが取らないからレナがもらうね。
I was saving that for later, Rena!
おいしい。
How dare you. She's the worst. Rena tossed the entire piece into her mouth and began munching on it, her expression one of bliss.
とおじさんとしたことがレナに先生を許すとはね。よっしゃおじさんはこのプチハンバーグをもらうよ。
You better not be taking my... I will fight you.
みえ、僕のおかずがなくな
You're
ってし
taking
まう
her
ので
food.
す。
She needs that. She's a growing girl. Rika, also behind the curve, smiled again and went for someone else's bento. As I sat there, dazed at how quickly everyone had changed, Rena sent a wink over to me. Come on, Keiichi. Live life to the fullest. That way, if a volcano erupts tomorrow, it'll be okay, Star.
冗談じゃねえ。最後の弁当が梅干しとご飯だけになってたまるか。それ、俺はミートボールをいただくぞ。
There we go. Everyone needs to eat, exactly. Welcome to the stream, Turtle Gamer. I stuffed the meat into my mouth and constructed a clumsy smile. I played along as if trying to fool myself. But as I did, I rapidly became less and less acting. Satoko still wasn't here. But at some point, we'd regained our lively lunchtime. Actually, hold on a second. This is like the simplest OST. Is this the Banjo-Kazooie music? Beep, beep, beep. Oh, wait. It sounds similar. At some point, we regained our lively lunchtime. We had fun, we smiled, and we fooled around. Thanks, everyone. This was definitely the best thing to do. This way, when Satoko suddenly dropped by, we could welcome her back with our best smiles. The more I smiled, the more I felt the anxiety from this morning clearing away.
笑う角に福来たるってことわざあったよな。
あるね。それが事実ならおじさんは四六時中笑い転げてるよ。
Okay.
レナは本当だと思うな。毎日笑ってれば毎日が楽しいよ。レナがいいことを言いますです。
じゃあ試してみるか。
Sure, why not? Why not? Hey, there they are. Yay! Yay! How fun is that? Let's go. Everyone took a deep breath and brought their faces together, locking shoulders. And then... When did this become Final Fantasy X? Keiichi was laughing for a lot longer than everyone else. Everyone laughed uproariously from their stomachs, trying to laugh out all the bad stuff accumulating in them. By the time our bento boxes were empty, everyone was bright as rain, and everyone else outside the group thought we were freaking weird. Smile, you're on candid camera. Well, we'll see if that continues. Oh, okay, now we can switch back to the other OST. Having heard our friendly banter, Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun walked up and timidly spoke to us.
前原さん、
Yeah, what do you
楽し
want?
くお話し中、申し訳ないんですけど、
Yeah.
ちょっとお力をお借りしたくて。
They grin dryly and scratch their heads.
なんだよ一体。テストの対策法は以前教えただろ。
Bruh, they're like 10.
ちなみに千恵先生が授業中と含み笑いを教科書で隠した時が次のテスト範囲だ。
そうなんですか？
Do not encourage this. That's not what we're here for, said Tomita, elbowing Okamura.
実はですね、ボールが2階の雨どいに引っかかっちゃったんですよ。
Uh-oh.
前原さんなら身長高いからなんとかなるんじゃないかと思って。
No problem, I'll do that.
おう、先輩に物を頼むからには何か見
Keiichi,
返りがある
just
んだろう
don't
な。
be a dip.
俺は高いぜ。簡単に買収できると思うなよ。
Dude, come on. Don't be one of those upperclassmen. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun conversed for a short time and then gave their reply.
では前原さんには授業中に居眠りができる権利を与えましょう。
I would have been like, how about if you help us get the ball down, we won't tell the teacher you were telling us how to buy porn magazines. That would be a much better response.
それでどうです？
なんだそりゃ。授業中に寝るのは俺の勝手だろ。
I can't imagine Curry-sensei
なんでお前らに
putting
権
up
利
with
をもら
that.
わなくちゃならんのだ。
そんなことないですよ。今度は前原さんが居眠りしたら全部先生に言いつけることにしますから。
True. Alright, Titus.
なるほど、うまいうまい。
こいつらとんでもない交渉の仕方を覚えやがって。
What the heck is this?
すみません。
You're being weird.
ちょっとした冗談っす。
ほらほら、ゲイじゃん。おとなしく後輩たちの脅迫に屈したら
How about you just help him out? It's really not that big of an ask. Okay, Wicked Witch of the West. And now Mion was getting on my nerves. That happens a lot. Suddenly, it came to me, and I took Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun's hands.
わかった。俺の降参だ。ボールを取ってやるから居眠りの権利を俺にくれ。
まあ
見ろミオン。俺はちゃんと権利をもらったぞ。でもお前はもらってないよな。富田君、岡村君、ミオンが居眠りしたらすぐにチク
I
れ。
feel like Mion is actually a good enough student that she doesn't take naps.
いいな。
Rena and Rika began to cackle at Keiichi-kun's victory. I wasn't sure how the ball managed to get stuck up there, but it was planted firmly in the school building's second floor gutter.
その棒を貸せ。俺なら多分届く。よいしょっと。
Yeah, the little kids are actually pretty good characters. I took a bamboo pole and poked the ball with it. Damn, it's hard! Come on!
取れた。
What the heck did you guys do to this?
取れましたよ前原さん。
They must have used the aluminum power bat to get it in there.
どうもありがとうございました。
It feels good to do a good deed for the day. The ball rolled down the gutter and fell behind the school building. My underclassmen ran over in that direction, leaving me by myself. Mission complete, I guess. Sheesh. There was still a lot of time left until lunch break was over. Yeah, you guys ate way too fast. Guess I should go back to the classroom. I'd absorb myself in a silly conversation with everyone and wait for afternoon classes. Just when I thought that and turned towards the entrance, someone suddenly called out to me, "Is it Uisi?" It's
どうも
Uisi!
こんにちは。
Oh boy. we get to be in an Ace Attorney game again.
お昼休み中すみませんね。
It was a middle-aged man I didn't know. Sure you do. Or maybe I'd passed him a few times and seen his face, but I didn't know him. When his half-smile deepened, something within me shuddered with fear. There was no basis for that. No reason. But I shuddered. It was something I was somewhat confused about these emotions, not quite understanding them myself. There was one thing I could say, though. Nobody but teachers and students should be at school. This person shouldn't have been here. Uh-oh. I felt less of a tremble and more of a sense of dread. Like a caterpillar, brilliantly colored in garish, bilious greens, were crawling across my forehead. A feeling of disgust that neither itchy nor gross could describe as the frizzly, dreadful hair rubbed against my brow. I didn't even want to see his face. Wow. Jeez. He's having quite a reaction to this. I just wanted to jump backwards and run away. An unpleasant feeling, for which I didn't even know the cause. The other side of myself has nothing but questions. Hey, what are you doing? What are you disgusted by? This is the first time you've met him. It's rude to hate someone for no reason. Hater's gonna hate, though. No answers were coming. I held my silence, waiting, a damp sweat running down my forehead. When he saw that, Uisi thought maybe was being intimidating, and gave me a relaxed smile.
ああ、失礼しました。怪しいもんじゃないんですよ。
Sure.
私、沖宮警察署から参りました。大石と申します。あれ、手帳どこかな
Let me see your police badge.
あれ参ったな。ありゃ
Oh wait, this is my Costco membership card. He fished through various pockets, then finally found his police ID and showed it to me, grinning dryly. He may have been trying to use those clumsy-seeming actions to ease my anxiety, but I could say it definitely didn't work. Why was I this nervous? There was a reason, of course. If I wanted today to be the same as before, then today didn't need someone who hadn't been here back then. The fact that a man who wasn't here yesterday showed up today meant that today would be a different day than those before it. That would mark the end of the fun and happy days. I gulped and eased the ominous conclusion from my mind. I erased it. Sorry. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. It's just an old guy who looks kind of perverted that came from the police department. Don't go deciding that the fun times are over. He doesn't look perverted. I mean, he is, but like, keep that to yourself. I guess he did. He just came here because of his job. Yeah, just for his job. If he's working, then he would normally go to the teacher's lounge, right? The fact that he spoke to me... Yes, it must have been to ask where it was.
職員室をお探しですか
Satoko can't go. We haven't had the festival yet. And thus far in chapters 1 and 2, people didn't start going missing until after the festival.
ならあそこの昇降口から入っ
Unless they
て
just skip past the festival and we don't do it this time. I didn't want to look at this man for another second, so I started pushing things along. Uisi, however, didn't seem to have any interest in the teacher's lounge.
ああ、いえいえ。職員室にはそんなに用事はないんです。それより、お友達を呼んでもらいたいんですが。
Oh?
お願いできますかね
Depends on which friend. If it's Mion, heck yeah, I'll throw her under the bus.
お友達
If it's Rena, 50-50. If it's Rika, probably not.
誰です
女の子です。
You're gonna have to be a lot more specific than that. Keiichi is all of his friends are girls.
北条聡子さんを呼んできてもらえませんか
You know, I think she is still at her house. You know, I didn't get all the details, but I was led to believe she's been in the bathroom for a while. My consciousness grew faint, like I was about to pass out. Yes, my anxiety was realized. The dreadful, disgusting caterpillar was looking at me, about to crawl into my ear. Its frizzly, dreadful hair was touching my ear cavity. We'll pull it out. That's how bad it felt.
警察が聡子に何の用ですか
She won a trip to Karate Island. We just need to give her it.
いえいえいえ、大した用事じゃないんです。
But the creepy music is playing.
2、3聞きたいことがありまして。
2 or 3? That's a lot.
ご協力をいただければ嬉しいんですがね。
Why, of all people, was it Satoko? Why would a police officer come here in the middle of the day for something that wasn't important? This man was strange. I could smell it. And it smelled bad. Just a whiff of it made me want to grimace. You're having this reaction to Uisi, but not to the pitcher? Or coach? I knew that this man couldn't possibly be here to deliver her lost wallet or anything. I couldn't imagine what he needed from Satoko, but it had to be something unpleasant. My throat stunned with burning pain. Burned like a parched, creviced wasteland. The wasteland broke apart deep in my throat and brought out the words that from deep in my mind.
あんたに用はあっても聡子にはないと思います
Oh, I don't know. I just had all these snacks I got from Bucky's.
帰ってくれませんか
Uisi probably hadn't expected that reply. He stood there surprised for a few moments. I did as well. I hadn't thought words like that could ever come out of my mouth. Things might still work out. This guy might have shown up out of the blue, but if I drove him off, maybe I could make it so that it never happened. If I could do that, then I could get back. Maybe it's something like that. I could get it back.
これは手厳しいな。
He does have a lot of guts saying that to like a police, not chief necessarily, but like a high-ranking police officer.
あなた、さとこさんのマネージャーさんですかな
Yeah!
アポイントメントがないと面会は叶いませんか
We can take her, you can go in on March 31st. I mean, April 31st.
話がしたいだけなら電話ですればいいじゃないですか。日中学校にまで押しかけてくるなんて明らかに異常です。
Breaking through a dam would have been a perfect analogy to use. Why didn't I like this man? This man shouldn't have been here. I needed to make it so this man wasn't here. Childish, selfish emotions bubbled up from the depths of my mind, and they each came out of my mouth just as it had been formed. Not liking the guy was my own problem, but to say things so bluntly to him, even I thought I was crazy.
ありゃ、いちいち正論な方ですね。こういう言い方をする人は苦手なんだよな。
I like people I can emotionally manipulate. Uisi grinned and scratched at his sweaty throat. Even as he feigned stupidity, I could tell he was irritated. Hey, Keiichi Maebara, why am I looking for a fight with this old policeman here? It's not like he brought the gift of misfortune with him all wrapped up in paper, right? Right. It wasn't like he brought a package of misfortune with him and he was asking me to sign here, please. Rationally speaking, I understood all that. So then, why was I so... Finally, I outlasted Uisi in our game of silence, and he gave a big sigh. Then he addressed a few of my female underclassmen running around nearby.
もしもし、君たち、ちょっといいですかな。北条さと子さんを呼んで。
He's like, alright, Keiichi's being a butt. I'm just gonna ask somebody else. My underclassmen tried to smile and reply, but they noticed the oddly stiff air atmosphere around me, and seemed hesitant to give a quick answer.
いませんか、北条さと子さんは。
北条さんは今日はお休みですけど。
Traitor.
休み。
Well, that's an interesting face there. He looks so weird in the original art style. Well, they all look weird in the original art style. Oh! He looks a bit crankier here. This one, he just looks like, okay. His face remained smiling, but his tone was clearly one of ill humor. Such conspicuous spite caused my underclassmen, who had answered honestly, to cringe in fear.
そうですか。いやはやいやはや。これはついてないです。
He was smiling broadly, but the way he laughed didn't make me feel better at all. When he noticed that his laughter wasn't getting anyone else to laugh with him, he immediately stopped.
で、君たち、ここにいるお兄さんは、なんて名前か教えてくれますか
I'll kill you. He grabbed the girls by the shoulders so they wouldn't run away and crouched down to address them at eye level. The girls flinched away from the sharp, piercing light in his eyes. And, in exchange for their release, they didn't resist and told him my name.
ほう、前原圭一さんですか。
You traitors! He said my full name. That was all he said, and yet I couldn't help but shudder. It was like he had grabbed me by the collar with just those words.
あなた、ひょっとして例の前原屋敷の御曹。
That's a different Maebara. It's a very common name.
お父さん、高名な芸術家さんなんですってね。
Well, funny you should say that. Ooh. This is good music.
年に2回ほど東京の大展覧会に出展されてるそうじゃないですか。どんな立派な絵を描かれるかは存じませんがね。
Yeah, Man was asking me about that too.
お母さんも知的そうな方じゃないですか。高学歴って聞きましたよ。
Okay, buddy. This is weird.
どこぞの女子大を出られてるそうじゃないですか。
How do you know all of this?
あの年の女性で女子大でなんてすごいですよ。
What does that mean?
ひょっとしてお母さん、両家のお嬢さんなんじゃないですか。 なんて噂が立ってるせい
The rumors?
冷たい人だ
Mom
なん
is
て
great.
噂
Do
が
not
立てられて
diss
る
my
なんて
mom.
ご存知ね。
I can do yo mama jokes.
町内会の会合最初の1回以外は出てないでしょう。
Okay, bro.
そういうのっていけないんですよね。こういう土地ではご近所付き合いをないがしろになんかできませんよ。
Maybe she didn't want to be part of the homeowners association, alright? I respect it. Do you have, like, a reason for being here? A sense of eeriness slivered up my spine. That was my first experience of true terror. I couldn't believe it felt this terrible for someone you just met to know everything about you already. Uisi clamped onto my shoulders and brought his eyes close to peer into mine.
こういう土地ではね、敵は作らない方が絶対にいいですよ。
It's also good not to manhandle children.
さもないと。
Ow! Uisi dug into my shoulders with inhuman strength.
思わぬところで不利益を受けるかもしれません。
Bro, this guy's being way more aggressive
因果応
this
報という
timeline.
言葉もありますよ。風が吹けば桶屋が儲かるの正反対です。
That's actually not what karma means.
妙なところで買った恨みが信じられないところで返ってくることがあるかもしれません。そうなったら嫌でしょう。
You got your information about Satoko. Why are you being a butt?
誰だって恨みなんか買いたくないんです。敵を作らないに越したことなんかない。どうしました？肩がだいぶ凝ってますね。
I wonder where that is.
ちょっと揉んであげましょうか。ほら、気持ちいいでしょ。
What the heck? Is this guy going crazy? Ow, 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 ow! This man wasn't just strong. It was like he knew exactly where to press to make me feel pain. God, only 4 or 5 fingers were on my shoulders, and yet the pain made me want to bend over backwards. Yeah, like what the heck? He's like assaulting this teenager for nothing. He came, he's like, hey, can I talk to Satoko? And then someone who's like, I'm like, I don't really want to talk to you, bro. And he's like, all right, underclassmen, where is she? And they're like, she's at home. He knows where she is now. Like, he can just leave, but no, he's like, all right, this little punk kid, I'm gonna teach him a lesson. I'm gonna attack him. Ugh! A few of the girls from my class were pretty shaken up, but they didn't seem to want to help me. They weren't sure if they should go call the teacher. Oh yes, please do. As for me, I couldn't take the time to wait until the teacher got here. It hurts.
もうそれくらいになさってください。
No, I don't want to be saved by Coach.
痛がってますよ。
え？
Uh-oh. Coach to the rescue. Here he just looks kind of perplexed. Here he's like, uh-huh. But here he's like, you're going down, bro. Behind Uisi-san, someone. To my disbelief, it was Coach. Not creepy Coach.
おや、これは入江先生じゃありませんか。
Doctor! If this guy's a doctor, I am never going to that hospital.
ご無沙汰しておりますね。
Discomforted by Coach's sudden appearance, Uisi laughed scornfully. The vice on my shoulders, however, remained as strong as ever.
挨拶はいいです。それよりも前原くんを離してあげてください。
You're an idiot. Uisi smiled daringly and glared straight at Coach. He didn't release me in the meantime, of course.
先生のところにも後でお伺いしようと思ってい
To
たん
be
です
fair,
よ。
Uisi probably should arrest Coach for creeping on little girls.
いつもお忙しいとかでろくろくお話ができませんからね。
ええ、お望みとあればいくらでもお話を伺いますよ。でもその前に令状をお持ちになってください。
I think he can make that happen.
職務質問と任意同行は拒否できますからね。
True. He knows the law. Coach didn't display a shred of the weird behavior he'd shown at the baseball game and barbecue. If only he could be like this more. He stared steadily at Uisi and fought so that he would release me. His chances were terribly bad, of course. Compared to the relaxed Uisi, Coach seemed like he was being defeated mentally. It made sense. Coach had a somewhat narrow stature, but Uisi's body was packed with muscles. It wasn't even a contest. But Coach was fighting for me, without taking a step back. Beads of sweat formed on his face, and though he paled, he was fighting for my sake. Okay, I'll stop attacking the 15-year-old boy. Suddenly, Uisi laughed and let go of my shoulders. My body exhausted, I fell right onto my backside.
前原君大丈夫ですか？
くそ。いってててて。
I rubbed my shoulders where Uisi had latched onto them. The pain from falling over went away quickly, but this pain was lingering.
大丈夫ですか前原君。ひどいことを。
くそ。あいててて。
Uisi, you're definitely getting in trouble for... Or maybe Uisi's just like, I'm retiring in a month. I don't care anymore. What are you gonna do, fire
ちょ
me?
っと肩を揉んだだけじゃないですか。
Don't lie, you butt!
前原さんも少し大げさすぎですよ。
Aren't you being a creep?
男の子はもう少し我慢強くなくっちゃ。
Alright, dude, you're going down. I wanted to retort, but I couldn't think of anything witty.
肩は上がりますか？痛みますか？痛みが強いようならちゃんと診察をした方がいい。とにかく保健室へ。
Let's get evidence against this guy. Coach lent me his shoulder and walked beside me.
大げさですね。
Bruh, we've got 4 witnesses to what you did. Literally. And you also did probably not as hard, but the same thing to the girls. So, yeah, I'd be a little worried.
私に限って傷が残るような真似をするわけがないじゃないですか。
Yet you still, like, attacked a 15-year-old boy, though.
私これでも現職の警察
Yeah,
官なん
that
ですよ。
doesn't put you above the law.
さあどんなご用があったか存じませんが、もうご用がないならお帰りを。今日のことは今度所長さんに直接抗議しますから、そのつもりでいてください。
Alright, I can't believe I'm on Coach's side here, but yeah, he's being the reasonable adult in this situation.
それは困りますね。
Uisi-san waved his hand sarcastically, pivoted around, and headed to the car parked by the school gates. And without turning back around, he got in and started the engine. Damn it! Who the hell was he? Damn it!
あいつは大石クランドという刑事です。乱暴者でね、村中に嫌われている男です。
I wonder why!
前原さんも用心した方がいい。
Karudo Uisi. Just like I thought, my gut instinct wasn't wrong. He would be the one. The one to bring unhappiness, misfortune, something that would ruin our peace. To be fair, Uisi was kind of like the main big good guy in the first chapter, from what I understand. Shit. I won't accept it. All these fun days can't possibly end just because some guy like him showed up. All the cute guys in this game wear glasses. I mean, we've only had, I think, 2 adult men with sprites. Coach and, besides Uisi, Coach and Tomatake. Maybe one of Uisi's fellow detectives also had a sprite at one point? I can't remember. Oh, wait, and Shion's bodyguard guy who showed up for literally half a second. But he had sunglasses, so that still counts. Coach seemed to be familiar with the school, so he brought me to the nurse's office without much trouble. The girls from my class came along as well, looking worried. Our teacher and the principal, having noticed the disturbance, came to see what was the matter. Hey, be my principal and get that guy kicked out.
前原君。
Oh no! Oh no, teacher! She's like, I don't know about that. Yeah, she looks a little worried.
どうしたんですか？怪我でも？
前原さん、さっき校庭で変なおじさんに。
This is gonna sound even worse. Coach gently interrupted the girls trying to explain.
いえ、ちょっと転んでひねったみたいです。
You lie! Teacher gotta know about this.
大丈夫だとは思いますけど、念のためと思いましてね。保健室をちょっとお借りいたします。
入江先生、よろしくお願いしますぞ。
Come on, Principal was gonna help me out. The principal gave a deep bow. It looked like Coach was acquainted with the adults at school. He slid open the doors to the nurse's office, but there wasn't a nurse in there or anything. I'd figured. I'd never seen anyone but Chi-sensei and the principal working there. Coach didn't seem to mind the fact that there was no nurse, and he quickly made his way into the nurse's office. If he's actually a doctor, though, he instructed me to sit down and started washing his hands in the sink. Oh, I get it. He's the coach for the boys' baseball team. He must be pretty used to treating wounds with first aid.
ちょっと患部を見せてもらえますか。まだ痛みます。
いえ、もう全然痛みません。
I would not want to be coach's patient.
本当に大丈夫です。
I rolled up my shirt and showed him my shoulder. No bruise, not even nail marks. Yeah, because Uisi knows how to attack you without leaving a mark. And yet, it had hurt so much that I thought my shoulders would be crushed. Even the pain had disappeared without a trace. It hurt so much, but not so much as a bruise remained.
それだけあいつが慣れているということですよ。
No, Takano is a nurse, I think, at a bigger, like an actual hospital, not just the school. I also wouldn't want to be Takano's patient either. Used to it, huh?
今度会った時は挑発しないことです。あいつを怒らせて得をすることは何もありませんからね。
All I said when it was weird for him to be asking for Satoko at the school, and he's like, "All right, you little punk." He has an anger problem.
自宅に制服警官を連れて押しかけてきたら、ご家族だっていい気持ちはしないでしょ。
My parents also aren't gonna like it if a uniformed policeman attacks me.
それは確かに。
しかし、何があったんです？前原さんがあいつと喧嘩になるなんて。
あいつ、聡子に用事があるとか言ってきて。
え？聡子ちゃんにですか？
Coach's gaze lowered and his expression clouded a bit. Somehow that gesture seemed to be saying Uisi was bound to come to Satoko and did, and that it was no laughing matter. Coach fell silent in thought. Quietly, he took a compress out of the first aid kit and put it on me. Uh-oh, cicadas again.
あの男はまだ聡子ちゃんに付きまとうつもりなんでしょうか？
What do you mean by still?
本当に蛇みたいにしつこい男です。
Coach mumbled to himself.
付きまとう？あの大石っていうやつ、たびたび聡子のところへ来てるんですか？
Coach didn't answer, but the lack of denial served well enough. What on earth did policeman, probably a detective or something, need from Satoko? What mistake had led to a detective to cling to sweetly smiling Satoko? Probably because she put a bunch of elaborate, dangerous traps on the mountain, and he's like, "Hey, you can't do that," and she's like, "Make me stop." He's like, "Okay."
引っ越してきたばかりでしたね。
ええ、そうですけど。
Choosing a rattlesnake or a bobcat as your pet? I'd probably take a bobcat. Bobcats aren't venomous.
お社様のたたりと聡子ちゃんの話は少しは聞いたことがありますか？
I get. Oh, is this where we get the info dump, which we get once per chapter? Well, I know a few things about it, certainly.
聡子の両親がダム計画の賛成派で、転落事故で死んだのはたたりだって話ですか？
Coach smiled thinly and dryly. "So you know," he said, dropping his gaze. If I recalled correctly, there was an accident on a viewing platform at the public park she'd gone to with her family, and her parents died. And then, it was just Big Brother and Little Sister. And then she was with Rika and...
ご両親が亡くなった聡子ちゃんとお兄さんの聡くんはおじ夫婦宅に身を寄せることになりました。
Oh. I don't think I knew that.
え、あ、そうなんですか。
Wait, is this the reference to the other Hojo that we got at the clue in the last one? Their parents died in the accident and Satoshi ran away, leaving only Satoko to start living with Rika. I'd known that much, but this is the first time I'd hear that they'd been brought to their uncle and aunt. Satoshi's missing and it's hinted that he killed his aunt, so maybe Uisi's after that. Was it hinted that he killed his aunt? I don't remember that.
おじというのは聡子ちゃんのお父さんの弟にあたる方なんですがね。残念なことに夫婦揃ってちょっと尊敬に値する方々ではありませんでした。
Coach normally picked his words politely, so when he came out and said that they didn't deserve respect, it really made me wonder what kind of people they were. Probably some abuse was happening.
聡子ちゃんの両親がダムに賛成していたとばっちりで、 おじ夫婦も村内ではとても肩身の狭い思いをしていましたからね。
Okay, I'm not gonna remember all the little details about some of the chapters, so that'll probably be to my detriment.
さとこちゃんたちを歓迎するはずもなかったんです。
Uh-oh.
さとこちゃんたち兄弟にとってとても辛い生活だったと聞きを読んでいます。
Yikes. Bit by bit, Coach told me about the numerous agonies the Hojo siblings had suffered at their uncle's house. Great! Oh boy, this is not good. As their guardians, their aunt and uncle sucked up everything belonging to their immediate family. Satoko and Satoshi were crammed into a small room, and their lives were laden with things that were miserable both for the bodies and minds. In the first place, since apparently their aunt and uncle weren't on good terms, there was no end to their fighting. And, as if in revenge for that, whenever they saw Satoko or Satoshi's face, they would always find fault with them, scold them, yell at them, strike them, and take away meals as punishment. Okay, yeah, that's horrible. Wow, I was wondering why she was living with Rika, but yeah, I think I would rather have my child live with a 12-year-old than with abusive parents or family
今
members.
思い出してもゾッとします。今の元気なさとこちゃんしか知らないあなたには土毛色の顔をしてただ日陰でぼーっとしているだけの彼女など想像もつかないでしょう。
So this is where it's getting very realistically dark. Yikes. I couldn't imagine it, and I didn't want to. That was how I honestly felt. But at the very least, Satoko wasn't like that anymore, so I'm assuming that we got to prove that they, like... At some point it was exposed how terrible the uncle and aunt were, and that the kids were taken away from them. Because it was like an abusive household. I don't know how she was still allowed to go live with Rika instead of like going to foster care or an orphanage or anything, but maybe we're about to hear that. She may have had a miserable life in the past, but it was different now. Something had happened to change that life.
去年の綿流しのお祭りの夜にね、おばが死んでしまったんです。
Wait, that's right. That was the previous with Tanagashi.
異常者にバットか何かで殴り殺されて、綿流しの祭りの夜には村の旧敵がたたりで死ぬと噂されてましたからね。この死も単なる殺人事件としてだけでなく、
So that's probably why they don't want to
お
talk
社
about
様のたたりで
Satoshi
はないかと
transferring
村
because
中で囁かれました。
presumably he was demoned away. And they're like, oh, he ran away. It's like, yeah, after presumably killing his aunt. Oof. A few days later, the deviant arrested for drug use confessed to further offenses, and the incident was resolved. However, though it was resolved, no one knew whether the part about it being Oyashiro-sama's curse was true or not.
おじだってひなみ沢の人間ですからね。
I like this music too. It's quieter but it's subtler, but it's really good.
お社様のたたりを大層怖がり、逃げ出して雲隠れしてしまったそうです。聞いた話では、沖宮あたりの実婚の中の女性宅に転がり込んでるとか。
Potential cheating, alright.
それで解放されたんですか、さとこたちは。
おばは死に、おじは逃げ出し、誰も兄弟をいじめる者はいなくなるはずだったんですが、まるでその後を継ぐようにあの男が執拗に現れるようになったんです。
Okay, so Aunt died, Uncle fled. Satoshi's still there? But then Satoshi started running after he started showing up?
あの男？
Then Coach lowered his voice just a bit as if being aware of his surroundings.
大石です。
大石、さっきの男。
The events that just occurred came back to me. The hard to describe ominous sensation I'd felt from him came back to me.
あいつは少しおかしいんですよ。お社様のたたりをめぐる一連の事件はみんな解決しているのに、あいつだけがそれを認めていないんです。
Accept it? The incidents were all solved, and a detective supposedly with the police department didn't accept that?
あいつが近づく人間には必ず何かよからぬことが起こると言われています。ひなみ沢ではね、大石のことをお社様の。
ケンちゃ
Mion, he was just getting to the good part. The door flew open with a rattle and Mion came rushing in. Rena and Rika came running in a few steps behind her, and then Tomita and Okamura and a few more of our classmates. Excuse me, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to be alone with Coach right now. What? I mean, that came out wrong.
ケイちゃん、大石にやられたの？怪我を？
落ち着いてミオンさん。怪我はありませんよ。念のため疾走しているだけです。
Wink.
ケイチくん、本当に大丈夫かな？みんなに聞いたら首を絞め上げられてたとか言ってて。
Well, I mean, yesn't.
落ち着けよレナ。肩をすげえ痛く握られただけだ。ほら、あざだってないだろ。
Why didn't teacher get to know about that?
みー。
たく、あんたら何やってんだよ。仲間だろ。なんでぼーっとしてたんだよ。なんでケイちゃんを助けなかったんだよ。
They were like 8-year-old girls, and this guy was like a buff, muscly policeman. It makes sense why they wouldn't step in.
ごめんなさい、委員長。
Mion yelled at our classmates, burying her fangs. Tomita-kun and the others hung their heads in silence. I don't blame them for not stepping in.
よせよミオン。富田君たちはその場にいなかったんだ。
Yeah, they weren't there. Only a couple of young girls were there.
責めるのはよせ。
くしょう。大石のやつ。
Oh yeah, she hates Uisi. Mion kicked the floor with her heel a few times, her temper running hot. Well, I mean, she hates Uisi because he's trying to uncover her crimes. Our teacher, overhearing the commotion, arrived as well.
こらこらこら。
Uh-oh, don't make teacher angry.
保健室で騒がしくしてはいけません。委員長、みんなを連れて保健室から出なさい。
ほらみんな、もう行こう。ケイチくんは大丈夫だって。ほら、みーちゃんも。
Yeah, Coach was getting to the good part of the story. What story? They just leave! Mion was letting her emotions get the best of her, so Rena stepped in instead and let everyone out of the nurse's office. The detective from Okinawa Station, Karodo Uisi. It looked like the first impression I'd gotten from him hadn't been mistaken. Satoko's absence had amplified the vague apprehensions I'd felt since yesterday, and Uisi's appearance basically sealed the deal.
さて、じゃあ私はもともと千恵先生に用事があってきたんです。
Why?
あ、用事があって学校に来たんですよね。俺なんかのためにどうもすみませんでした。
Don't be so humble, he said, smiling easily.
おかげで役得と言いますか。
Don't say something creepy, I swear to God.
前原くんのきめ細やかなお肌も
There we go.
存分に堪
Now
能
he
でき
ruined
ま
it.
した
He
よ。
ruined it.
はふー。
Just kick out of here. With the usual for Coach anyway parting words, he instead continued.
では失礼します。大した怪我ではありませんが、患部を揉んだりするようなことはくれぐれも避けてください。もしも高熱が出たり腫れたりするようなことがあったらすぐに連絡してく
I
ださい
think
ね。
I'll just contact an actual hospital. I own one.
そんなことは
No!
ないと思いますが。
あ、そうだ監督。さっきみんなが来る直前、何大石のことをお社様のなん
He's gonna be like, oh, you know what? Forget about it. I don't need to drop that plot point yet. As he was about to leave the nurse's office, Coach placed a hand on the door and stopped.
ああ、お社様の使いですよ。
Oh, never mind.
もちろん悪口ですがね。
お社様の使い？
前原さんはひなみ沢で毎年綿流しの夜に起こる
I do.
ひなみ沢村連続開始事件、
Who starts with Higurashi
通称
Chapter 3?
お社様のたたりのことはご存知ですか？
連続開始？
Oh, I hope not. But that actually does make a good deal of sense.
え？
Now that I thought about it, I did seem to remember overhearing Mion or someone in class talking about it like a ghost story. The thing is, though, at the very least, even if Uncle ran away and they didn't learn about his abuse, the fact that he abandoned her, that should prove that he's not a fit parent, right? Huh. On the festival day in June, one person would always die, and another person would be spirited away, but they seem to call it demoning away here. What a fine story that was. I figured they'd made it up to scare me, but it was true?
一体 どこの誰が言い出したのかもわからない話ですが、いつの頃からか大石のことをお社様の使いと呼ぶようになりました。
なぜですか？
あの男がその年のたたりの犠牲者を決めていると噂されているからです。
Whenever June came around, Uisi would start paying frequent visits in Hinamizawa.
亡くなったり消えたりする人たちの多くがあの男の執拗な訪問を受けているからです。
4 years ago, it was known that the victim of the dismemberment, rumored to be the sacrifice, had been seeing Uisi numerous times leading up to the incident. The sacrifices 3 years ago were Satoko's parents. Right before their accidental deaths, Uisi had apparently visited their home. The one who disappeared 2 years ago was Rika-chan's mother. And again, people know that before she vanished, Uisi had been talking to her extremely frequently. The one who disappeared last year, Satoko's older brother Satoshi. Okay, no, he was the one, not the uncle. Satoshi, too, had apparently been approached by Uisi many times before he vanished. And then this time, Uisi was trying to contact Satoko.
冗談じゃないです。
噂ですよ、前原さん。そういう噂がある。
Yeah, Takano's
というだけです。
very obsessed with Oyashiro-sama. She gives me the creeps. Also, she apparently faked her death in at least chapter 2, so that makes her very suspicious. I hadn't said that because of the rumors of Uisi being Oyashiro-sama's servant, or his contacting someone foreshadowing who would be the sacrifice that year. It was because of the ominous hatred I felt towards Uisi was becoming more substantiated, more real.
聡子、今日欠席したじゃないですか。
え、そうなんですか？
Uh-oh, that looked like news to Coach. I'd thought that he might have known why Satoko was absent today, but...
では失礼します。前原君も早くみんなのところに行って安心させてあげるといいでしょう。
Seems this soundtrack is more simple, like it has tracks, like singular tracks that fit multiple fans, whereas the other soundtrack has more varied.
そうですね。そうします。
Clatter. Coach left the nurse's office and headed towards the teacher's lounge. Things are getting good now. New tips unlocked! Research notes and Uisi's post memo. Let's heck go. Better left untold. We learned Satoko's secret. Did we? I feel like all we really learned was something about her past, but not really a secret she's currently keeping. Let's view our new tips. Actually. I apparently accidentally clicked on something. This is Uisi's note. To Uisi-san. There was a call for you from Section 4's Chief Shigaharu. Apparently the slaughtered corpse in the Ojikawa River is related to the S group, as we thought. We're still verifying what happened behind the scenes, but apparently the deceased filled up dozens of self-created fictional bank accounts to their limits with money from the S group, reaching around 100 million yen. Could be. I mean, it is the Satoko chapter, so presumably something bad's going to happen to Satoko. Either she's going crazy or she's going to die, or both. It appears that there were 3 to 4 men with former S group connections involved in all of this. They've already disappeared along with millions of yen. The deceased was tortured on the point for that information, and she was clearly slaughtered as an example to others. There are apparently some real wizards chasing down the people who disappeared. They're also spreading letters to related Yakuza groups not to harbor them. There's still no evidence that Teppei Hojo is one of those people. Oh, that's probably the uncle. As far as Chief Shigeharu could tell, he hasn't been told anything. He was her pimp, but she didn't trust him at all, did she? Oh. Teppei Hojo has left the apartment in Okinomiya and has returned to his former residence in Hinamizawa. Uh-oh. Don't like that. Let's go to the research notes. The Hojo family. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse claims 2 victims. This means that with 4 years in a row, there have been 8 now. But it's worthwhile to note that half of them have been members of this family. Note, the curse on the second year, a certain falling accident, involved the death of Hojo, the dam proponent, and the disappearance of his wife. She was pronounced dead the following year after having been considered to have vanished under perilous circumstances. The curse on the fourth year involved the death of the Hojo's sibling's aunt, who was then their foster mother, and the disappearance of the elder brother. The Hojo family is a poor one, and it's hard to say Mr. Hojo's job went very well. Apparently, upon re-employment via family connections, there was a plan for them to return to the home of the mother's side of the family. For Mr. Hojo, the eviction due to the Hinamizawa Dam project and the payment of a large amount of compensation money was essentially a windfall. Mr. Hojo actively embraced the Ministry of Construction's negotiations from an early stage and was selected as a representative of the dam proponents. It was rumored he had been bought out by the Ministry of Construction for doing so, but the truth is unknown. However, the dam's proponents were in the vastly outnumbered minority. In addition, as the Sonozaki family strengthened its own foundation and promised support against the dam, all of the proponents, save for Mr. Hojo, switched over to the anti-dam side. At this point, Hinamizawa was completely united against the dam, and Mr. Hojo was held up to ridicule as a stooge of the dam project's proponents. He was, essentially, used as a scapegoat for the anti-dam coalition. In the end, the dam project collapsed with Oyoshiro-sama's curse and the dismemberment incident. However, punishment towards the bitter enemies supporting the dam project continues to this day. There are not many left today who supported the dam project, nor who had a negative reputation at the time. If there were any candidates left for the curse, it's the husband of the housewife who was beaten to death last year, Teppei Hojo. And Mr. Hojo's daughter, Satoko Hojo. Uh-oh. Strangely, these two are the only candidates left. Will this year's curse come down on the two of them? There is more than enough value in observing them both. Uh-oh. Well, that's ominous. Okay.
守りたいと思う心に嘘はなかった。大切にしたいと思う心は誰よりも強いはずだった。優しさから生まれた感情はやがて殺意へと変わり、真っ白だった思いは赤と黒で染まってゆく。それが守りたかった日常の崩壊を意味していると分かっていながら、たたり殺し、何が間違っていたのか、その答えを探して悲劇はさらに広がってゆく。
北条さんは今日もお休みですか？
Was that Rena reading that? It sounded like Rena's voice.
古出さんは何か知っていますか？
I'm getting worried. The teacher's voice wasn't critical, but Rika-chan hung her head, unable to answer, and I felt really bad for her. Teacher, things are worse than you can think. The teacher called Rika-chan up, and they had an exchange in hushed tones at the dai. At first, Rika-chan said that Satoko's fever had grown worse, but everyone in class knew it was a lie. Because every day, Rika-chan brought Satoko's bento with her.
さとこちゃん、どうしちゃったんだろうね。
俺が知るかよ。
Is she stuck in her uncle's house with her uncle? I really don't want that to be true. I'm the one who wants to know most of all. It was already the third day since Satoko's first absence. Ever since then, I haven't felt good. Someone's probably gonna murder the uncle. I mean, assuming the uncle's as bad as we're thinking, again, I'm not condoning murder. But if there had to be somebody who was murdered, probably he's the one people would miss the least. They did say this was the easiest... Or wait. No, they didn't say this was the easiest chapter. They said this was like the hardest chapter, that like you wouldn't possibly be able to predict stuff. So maybe fiends are just gonna go utterly insane. A la Professor Layton. Ow, fart. Okay, we're continuing on from this. Until last Sunday, everything had been so fun. I had reached out to Satoko like a real older brother, and we spent that time quietly, but warm and comfortable. So why had it suddenly been flipped over? The more I thought about it, the more I thought that the world had taken a turn for the worse ever since Uisi arrived. Well, to be fair, Rena and Shion were starting to go crazy before he arrived. Thinking on it now, maybe the strange apprehensions plaguing me the night before Uisi arrived had been a sign. Karudo Usi. Oyashiro-sama's servant.
くそ、そんなことあるもんか。あいつが現れたから聡子が今年のたたりに会う役だなんて決められてたまるかよ。
Just what sort of slip-up had I committed to cause those fun times to end so suddenly? Yes, it was the day before Oishi appeared. Shion, Mion, and Rena had spoken of the curse surrounding Satoshi and his disappearance, and it was so sinister it gave me a bad premonition. Such a small thing was the slip-up that invited Oyashiro-sama's servant. It was absurd. I kept on groaning to myself that I would never accept it, ever. I obviously wasn't the only one suppressing my feelings. Mion and Rena were too. Everyone in the class was doing it. Rika knew something about Satoko's situation, but she wouldn't tell us. Rika still held a calm attitude, like a cat basking in the sun. But she was being unbelievably stubborn about this whole thing. She didn't want to tell us, and that wouldn't change no matter how many times we asked her. Everyone understood that, so nobody questioned her.
リカちゃんが言わないならさ、言うまで待つしかないよね。逆に言わないってことは言う必要もない程度のことかもしれないし。
There was no persuasive power in reassurance given an anxious face like that. Mion was being taciturn, and just looked up at the sky with a somehow annoyed expression. I couldn't tell if she was unhappy that Rika wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was being concerned over Satoko's well-being. And what about me? My anxiety was suffocating me day after day. If someone else were looking at me, then maybe I'd look annoyed, like Mion did. Tap, tap! Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tomita and Okamura.
前原さん、ちょっといいですか？
またボールが引っかかったか？今度はお前たちで何とかしてみろよ。いつまでも先輩に頼るのは良くないぜ。
It didn't feel good going along with them, so I was a little unsympathetic with my response.
ちょっと気になる噂を聞いたんすよ。
噂？
はい。ひょっとすると関係があるかもと思って。
A rumor. About Satoko. They hadn't said that, but it didn't seem unrelated. They didn't want to talk in the classroom, so they pulled me behind the school building, lending further credence to that thought. The back of the school was damp and humid like always. Students didn't really come here because they wanted to. It might, however, have been the ideal location for trading rumors away from prying eyes.
富田君、岡村君、その噂話ってもちろん聡子の欠席と関係のある話なんだろうな。
関係があるかはわからないですけど、あるいは。
Just say it.
聡子は一体どうしたってんだ？風邪なのか？それともひょっとしてもっと重い病気か怪我か何かで？
いえ、それがむしろ逆で、うちのばあちゃんの話だと昨日の昼にうちの店に豆腐を買いに来たらしいんです。
Oh, that's a good sign. Oh, Tomita's family runs a tofu shop, added Okamura-kun.
豆腐屋さんに買い物？
My voice sounds so stupefied, even I can tell. It was understandable. I was worried about what grave illness or injury she had, when the person herself had been out and about shopping for tofu.
で、聡子はどうだったんだよ？元気そうだったのか？それとも病み上がりでマスクでもしてたとか？
Was she wearing a gas mask? Those look really cool.
松葉杖で包帯だらけだったとか？
いえ、別に病気とか怪我とかそういうわけじゃなかったらしいんですが。
I should have felt relieved that it wasn't an illness or an injury, but my anxiety wasn't going away. Because Tomita and Okamura's expressions weren't looking any better.
絹ごし豆腐を一丁買っていったそうなんですが、ばあちゃんが言うにはおかしいと。
おかしい？なぜ？絹ごし豆腐を買って何が悪い？
It's disgusting! You get chicken instead! Irritated by how roundabout they were being, I had to desperately fight that irritation from creeping into my voice.
北条とフルデってほら二人暮らしでそんなにお金持ちってわけじゃないですよね。
True.
だから二人はいつも安い木綿豆腐しか買わないんです。一番高い絹ごし豆腐なんか買ったことないんです。
Maybe she found $100 on the ground.
木綿だって絹ごしだってどっちも豆腐だろ？たまにはうまい豆腐が食いたくなっただけかもしれないじゃないか。
それはそうですけど。
I know how transparent I sounded right then. This wasn't anything trivial. It was some kind of an important clue. Not the cheap firm tofu, but the expensive soft kind. Shopping not in the evening after school, but in the middle of the day. I couldn't figure out what those things meant. As I thought hard about it, Okamura-kun took his turn to speak.
次は僕っすね。これも噂なんですけど、帰ってきたらしいんですよ。
You better be talking about Jesus.
帰ってきた？何が？誰が？
北条のおじさんが。
Yep. Satoko's uncle. Right, I think the coach told me about him. Their aunt and uncle had taken them in after Satoko and Satoshi lost their parents in the accident.
去年のお社様のたたりで怖くなって町に逃げたっていう北条のおじさんです。
And he came back just in time for Oyashiro-sama's curse this year.
こいつヤクザみたいな怖くて乱暴なやつで。
Great! Those are 3 things you don't want to be. Everything Coach told me came back in bits and pieces. Right. I mean, the mean aunt and uncle who had tormented them all the time. I think he said that after their aunt had been beaten to death by the deviant, he ran away to his lover's house in Okinomiya in fear of the curse. Okay, he had the lover before his wife died. Great, so he's a cheater. Cool. He sounds great.
そいつが帰ってくると、どうして聡子が学校を休んで真っ昼間に絹ごし豆腐を買う羽目になるんだ？
Maybe he got better in the last year. Maybe losing his wife and then lover has made him reconsider his life choices. Maybe. Who are we kidding? It's a horror game rated M. Of course it's not going to be that. My underclassmen clammed up and looked downwards. There must have been some big hint buried in there. Even if I didn't understand, if I told Mion and Rena about it, maybe they'd know something.
あ、ごめんな、二人とも。せっかく好意で話を聞かせてくれたのに、なんだか問い詰めるような言い方になっちゃって。
あ、いえ、いいんすよ。北条が重病で寝たきりになってないことが分かっただけでも、ほら、儲けもんじゃないですか。
That might be true, but it still won't. It won't make the clouds over my mind fade away.
あ、前原さん、ほらあれ。
Okamura-kun cried wildly, pointing over my shoulders behind me. Startled, I turned around, and way on the other side of the schoolyard, near the school gate, I saw a figure trudging forth. Ah! Why are her eyes dead? That's not what I want to see. Oh my gosh, her eyes are just empty. Yikes. Oh. Well, that creeped me out. Oh, that's the worst one. Oh, she literally looks dead inside. This is horrible.
北条だ。
I burst into a run faster than I could speak, so that, as quickly as possible, I could see with my own eyes that she was okay.
Satoko!
Satoko seemed taken aback by me shouting and running over to her. It's rated M, okay? When I cut the streams up, I say it's rated M. If you're 17 years old, you can watch the videos. Also, people can click off whenever they want.
まあ、なんですの圭一さん。突然大声を出して走ってくるから何事かと驚きましたわ。
バカ！俺のことなんかどうでもいいだろう。それよりどうしたってんだよ、聡子。3日俺心配で。
This is not good. Oh, she's hiding the pain well, though.
心配性ですわね。たかだか3日ですわよ。もう圭一さんは心配性なんですから。
Okay. From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Satoko, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason.
北条、大丈夫だったのかよ。風邪とかじゃないのか？
Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns.
一体どうしたってんだよ。3日も。俺がどれだけ心配してたか。
ごめんあそばせですわ。ちょっとお家のお掃除をしたりしてたんですのよ。だいぶ長いこと使ってませんでしたから、もう家中ほこりだらけでして。
はあ？聡子、 お前何を言ってんだ？なんで家の掃除なんかで学校を休まなきゃなんないんだ？
Satoko didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance.
もう今はお弁当の時間ではありませんの？私はお腹が空いてますのよ。
It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry.
まあいいや。リカちゃんは3日間毎日お前の弁当を持ってきてくれてるんだぜ。今日はちゃんと食べてやれそうだな。とにかく早く教室へ行こう。みんなを安心させてやろうぜ。
そうですわね。皆さんにご心配をおかけしてしまったかもしれませんわね。
Maybe Satoko can rig a trap for her uncle.
人気者は辛いでございますわ。
I put a hand on Satoko's shoulder and we ran to the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Satoko looked somehow weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I had thought. But now I had actually started to have quite different fears. What the heck happened, Satoko? Everyone in the class, of course, reacted in the exact same way I had. We worried about you! I'm glad to see you're well. What were you doing for 3 days? Her classmates showered her in questions.
本当にご迷惑をおかけしましたわね。
As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Satoko's arrival because our teacher sprinted into the classroom, her breathing ragged.
北条さん。
あら先生、3日間もご心配をおかけしましたわね。
You're gonna need an excuse now.
ご覧の通り元気でピンピンしてますわ。
もう本当に心配してたんですからね。お弁当が食べ終わったら職員室に来るんですよ。いろいろとお話があります。
Hopefully things that'll help her living situation. But somehow I don't think so.
3日もサボったからきっと大目玉に違いありませんわね。
Satoko laughed Satoko laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Satoko healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her.
でも安心したよな、レナ。
ごめん。無事でよかったよね。
Maybe she knows more than she's letting on. I looked at Rena and knew. She had a sense about something that something about Satoko was off, too. I looked to see Mion detached from the clamor as well, with a somewhat grim expression. But Rika, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Satoko finished them. Yay! Finally, Satoko was satisfied, and after enjoying a thorough conversation with her classmates, remembered that she had been called to the teacher's lounge. Oh no!
めんどくさいんですけど、行かないともっと怒られてしまいそうですからね。僕も一緒に行きますですよ。
Satoko rises from her seat and Rika runs over to her.
ごめん遊ばせ圭一さん。ちょっと怒られてまいりますわ。
おう。なんだったら俺も一緒に付き合うぜ。例のカレーの悪口の時、一緒に職員室で怒られた仲じゃねえか。
That's true, but I don't think we're getting murdered this time.
それには及ばないのです。圭一はここでお留守番なのですよ。
We don't want Rena and Mion killing everyone else. Rika's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. Was it? The two of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. After seeing them off, the class breathed a collective sigh of relief, broke apart, and went back to their usual lunch break banter. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Yeah, see? Look, oh my gosh. The serious faces on the girls. Uh-oh. Not I, not Mion, and of course, not Rena. They stared at the classroom exit Satoko and Rika had left through, their expressions a little distant and grim.
俺たちは仲間だ。そうだろう、みんな。
I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Rena turned around with dubious expressions.
俺は仲間に隠し事はしない。だから、さっき聞いたばかりのことを言う。
I told them about the stories I heard from Tomita and Okamura earlier at the tofu shop, and how Satoko's uncle had apparently come back. All at once without letting them speak.
これが俺の知るすべてだ。 だからミオンもレナもしていることがあるなら話してくれ。俺は俺の知るすべてを話したぞ。
I ended my sentence firmly and looked at Mion in Rena's eyes in turn. Rena stared right back at me. Eye contact! Woo! Her eyes didn't falter. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell she wasn't hiding anything. Then our gazes turned to Mion.
別に私は隠して黙ってるわけじゃないよ。
You say this a lot, Mion. Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares, and began to talk timidly, as if she was guilty of something.
でもケイちゃんが話したなら私も話さないわけにはいかないよね。
みーちゃん、何か知ってるの？
いや、聡子のおじが帰ってきたっての帰ってきた初日から知ってたよ。
To be fair, it was mainly chapter 1 where he's like, I can't trust anybody. And I'm pretty sure he was going insane in that chapter. Well, he did go insane in that chapter. He clawed his throat out at the end.
この間の日曜日にふらっとひなみ沢に帰ってきたって。
At the barbecue? When was this?
どうしてそれを黙ってた？
I'm sorry. I didn't think it was important. My angry shout caused Mion to flinch away, look down, and hang her head uncomfortably.
ケイチくん、怒るようなことじゃないよ。みーちゃん怖がってる。
え、あ、ごめん。つい大声を。
I lowered my head in apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her, her uncle's relationship with his lover, whom he had been with in Okinomiya, had collapsed. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. Oh, was he mooching off of her? He's like, well, my lover kicked me out, gotta go back to the only real estate I own. Great, this guy sounds like a real loser. And, on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satoko, and brought her back into the house.
自宅に
Sometimes the creepiest horror is not supernatural.
なんで連れ戻すんだよ。
ろくでなしの寄生虫だからね。
Uh-oh.
自分一人じゃ炊事はおろか掃除一つできないし。
Oh, so he's just an absolute loser.
そんな炊事やお掃除のためにさとこちゃんを連れ戻したっていうの？
Bro, when a 12-year-old... Oh, God. Why do they... Why does this sprite creep me out so much? Like, almost as much as the reptile eye sprites outside. By the way, when a 12-year-old girl is outperforming you in life, you know you're not in a good position. I remember that she said she'd been cleaning the house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, into the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what the puzzle depicted, when I saw it from afar, I could see the answer clearly.
聡子が家に閉じ込められていじめられながら家事をやらされてるっていう噂なんだよ。
Okay, so we gotta do something. All right, we gotta teach this punk uncle a lesson. If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled at that at Mion, but hastily stopped myself.
みーちゃん、それ本当なの？
私がこの目で確かめたわけじゃないから本当かどうかは知らないけど。
Mion looked down again, and staring at the floor, grew quiet.
去年みたいに意地悪なおじさん夫婦のところで暮らしてた時みたいに。
Even Rena knows about mean uncle.
でもさ、そのおじさんって家事はからっきしなんだろ？聡子が重宝なわけだから何もいじめてるってわけじゃないかもしれないだろ？
Akichi, I think you underestimate how much of a dick this guy's gonna be.
ケイチくん、何を根拠に言ってるのか知らないけど。
Dang, Rena!
いい加減なことは言わない方がいいよ。
Rena clearly and directly got mad at me. That's not nearly as mad as Rena can get, but understood. You don't know much about this, so don't talk as though you do. Yes, that's clearly what she meant.
じゃあレナは知ってるのかよ？
私だって知らないよ。 今ここで聞くまでさとこちゃんがおじさんの家に連れ戻されたなんて
Can't we
知らなか
call
ったもん。
CPS and tell them about this? At the very least, tell them, like, yeah, this guy abandoned his 12-year-old niece for a year to chase after some booty. He's clearly not fit to have custody. They're like, oh, well, I guess if we do that, she'll be taken to an orphanage or something, but that's gonna be better! Clearly! Lovely.
でもね、1年前とはまるで状況が違うの。
状況が違うってどういうことだよ。
サトシくんがいない。
Oh.
サトシはすごく妹思いのいい兄だったんだよ。
Yeah. At the very least, even if there's not a lot he could do to fight back against the uncle, as hard as horrible as it is, if there are two kids in the house, the abuse can get, like, divvied up. Oof, this is bad. This is bad.
いつもサトコをかばってた。意地悪なおじおばのとばっちりが少しでもサトコにかぶらないように
Right.
盾になってくれてた。
And also, the aunt's not there. So if Uncle's just a terrible person, like, oof. Oh, this is gonna be triply bad.
家には意地悪なおじさんとサトコちゃんが2人きりなんだよ。
Okay, we gotta
そ
get
れ
rid
が
of him.
どれだけ行き詰まるものか、ケイチ君にだって
Again,
想像がつくんじゃないかな。
Not condoning murder or anything. I'm just saying, like, we gotta do something to help her.
ひなみ沢に帰ってきた理由だって身を寄せてた愛人が蒸発したからでしょ。そんな不愉快な理由で帰ってきた人がどうしてサトコちゃんに優しくできるっていうの？
Yes, but the chances are exorbitantly slim. She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Satoko not being tormented.
ごめん。
あ、こっちこそごめん。
Mion, I know you have connections. Now
問
don't
い詰
kill
めるような
him.
口調
Just
になっちゃったね。
get him arrested or, chase him out of town. An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. Does Rika know about this? Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. Hey, Principal, we're going to need you to be a pal and help us with a abusive uncle situation. The teacher came back with Satoko and Rika at her side.
さあさあ、午後の授業を始めますよ。
Judging by that pristine smile on the teacher, we're probably not getting any help from her. She probably doesn't know.
委員長、号令。起立。
ごめんなさいね。失礼。
Yikes. Well, then how about we were like, hey, guess what, Elise? This guy's abusive. He's like, oh, just because you squeeze someone's shoulders a bit, that's not abusive. It's like, Elise, you suck. I couldn't read anything from Satoko's vaguely sheepish expression, but given the clouded look Rika was wearing behind her, it was tough to laugh off the disquieting story I'd heard from Mion.
よーし、久々に全メンバーが揃ったからね。久しぶりにパーッと大部活で盛り上がろうじゃないの。
Yeah! Perfect! Indeed, in times like these, the best thing to do was obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in the club activity.
望むところだよ。ねえ、さとこちゃん、やろうやろう。
サトコが好きだったゲームあるでしょ。ほら、なんだったっけ。なんでも構わないよ。言ってみ。
Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker, and lined them up on the desks. I think that was the first time Mion ever let someone else decide on a game for her. I could tell she was being especially considerate to Satoko, thinking that whatever her circumstances, if we could just enjoy our time together as a group, that might make some comfort, some diversion. Satoko seemed to understand her feelings too, and smiled vaguely, though pleased. But her head slowly moved from side to side.
ありがたいですけど、お気持ちだけで結構ですわ。いろいろしなければならないことがありますので。
Uh-oh. Even Rika hung her head in remorse.
おいおいおいおいおい、本気なわけ？部活メンバーが久しぶりに揃ったってのにお流れになっちゃうわけ？っ 敵前逃亡は罰ゲームってのは海賊第何条だったっけ？
Jeez, you need less strict rules there, Mion.
やめなよみーちゃん。無理に付き合わせちゃダメだよ。
別におじさんは無理強いしてるわけじゃないよ。ただ大盛り上がりした方が絶対に楽しいと思って。
本当にお気持ちだけで嬉しいんですのよ。ご安心なさいませ。次に戦うときは皆さんまとめてでっかい
Maybe
罠
Satoko
に
can
は
lure
めて
her
ご覧に
uncle
入れま
into
す
the
わ。
mountain where she set like 800 traps and trap him there and just not tell anybody he's trapped there. I mean, that would probably just make things worse, but Satoko, while insulting us, still said that she couldn't participate in the club today and apologized. She quickly put her things into her bag and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in the blink of an eye.
さとこ。
Rika stared lonesomely as her friend hurried home, unable to be part of the club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of our classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas sounded like they were coming from some faraway world. Does Uncle still have a job? Or is he just like, nah, we're gonna do what we can. You suck, get money.
つまんないの？
The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness as she began putting the games onto the desk back into the locker. It sounds like Satoko's already playing a game. It's called Risk. Okay, that wasn't funny. Everyone just stared absently at Satoko's seat, now empty.
リカちゃん、そろそろ話してくれてもいいんじゃないかな。
Oh my gosh! It's Rika's serious voice. Or face. She's only had this like once before. This looks very bad. Rena made as gentle a smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Satoko's uncle had broken up with his lover and come back into Hinamizawa. And he had taken Satoko back home and forced her to do all the household chores. And that all had to be pretty rough on her. Thinking this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part.
だいぶひどいのか?
Maybe Mion and Rena wanted to ask that same question. Nobody spoke. We all just stared, waiting for Rika's reply. Rika still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was a bad enough sign.
去年だっけ? おじ夫婦の元にいた時もこんな状況だったんだろう。
あの時は夫婦喧嘩のとばっちりみたいなのがほとんどだったからさ。こうして部活で時間を潰して家にいる時間を極力減らすのも一つの手だったんだけど。
Right.
今は家事を強制されてるから学校に残ることもできないんだね。
Shit. Satoko's not a slave. Who do you think you are? Ignoring your own inability to live properly and basically putting Satoko under house arrest. I mean, that is a little rich coming from the guy who had to have the 12-year-old girl come over and cook for him when his parents left him on his own. Again, I'm not saying you're nearly as bad, but look, I'm just saying you need to learn common life skills too.
常識的に考えてこんなのおかしいんじゃねえのか? いろいろと状況証拠は必要だろうけど、そういうのって虐待だろ? 警察とかに通報できないのかよ。
そうだよね。体罰の証拠とかがあれば警察に通報できると思うよ。あるいはそういうのって地域の民生委員さんとかに相談できないの?
Right. Rena and I kept saying police, police as though it were nothing, but Mion's response sounded like she thought we were a little naive. Mion's like, no, we don't need the police coming and crawling around.
みんな簡単に言ってくれるけどさ、それを立証するリスクを考えたことある？
リスクってなんだよ。
一昨年の冬かな。通報したんだよ。児童相談所に。
Okay, so they did.
虐待があるからすぐに何とかしてくれって。
そうだったんだ。それで？
電話してすぐにお役所の人が来てくれたよ。で、さとことかさとしとかに事情聴取してた。ついでにおじ夫婦のところにもね。
さとことさとしに聞くまではいいが、おじ夫婦にまで聞くのはまずいんじゃないのか?
They probably have to.
両者の意見を聞いて総合的に判断するんだとさ。ご立派ご立派。
で、 結果はどうだったの？
Well, I think we have the answer.
様子見。
様子見ってなんだよそれ。
おじさんとっても勉強になっちゃったんだけどさ、法律ではね、暴行か育児放棄が認められなきゃ
He left
虐
for a
待とは
year
言
to
わないん
chase
だっ
after
てさ。
some booty. There we go. That's neglect. We've got him. And we have many... It's established. The police know this.
サトコもサトシもよく小づかれてたらしいけど、別に傷跡が残るような
Oh,
レベ
hey,
ルじゃなかったし
just like a certain police detective.
3食の飯も一応食えてたし、寝床もあったし、
That's enough.
心理的外傷を与える言動をたって別にカセットテープで証拠があったわけじゃないし、
Eh,
村の人たちだって実際に乱暴してる現場は見たことないからね。いくら意地悪だからって人前で乱暴はしないでしょ、
true.
誰だって。
で、その後どうなったの？
しばらくは毎週決まった日に民生委員さんが訪問してたみたい。
Yeah, you gotta change it up and surprise them.
おじ夫婦も自分たちが見張られてることを気にして目立ついじめはしなくなった
Yeah,
らしい
you
けど、
gotta do it secretly. So that they don't know.
それで済むわけないでしょ普通。
より陰湿ないじめ方に加速していったってことだ
That
ね。
is usually how it goes. Mion sighed and nodded.
おばのやつが特にねちっこくってさ、女特有の陰湿さっていうのかな。
That's saying something for Mion.
相当いやらしいことをしてたらしいよ。
Uh-oh.
さとこ、最後の方は呼吸するだけのボロ人形みたいだった。
So what? From that conclusion, does that mean they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place?
わかった？誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠がなかったらお手上げなんだよ。
We have established proof that he neglected her for a whole year. Why is this a discussion?
むしろ状況を悪化させかねない。
Maybe we don't know the
あれは
police have it on records?
失敗だった。
After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads. Welcome to the government, incompetent as always.
つまり誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠が見つかるまで通報すべきでないってことなんだね。
うん、まあその
Time to start our new YouTube channel. I considered Satoko's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do the chores. How was she being tormented would be the key, but without concrete evidence, it would be difficult to prove. If she had some kind of external injury, that would work. But as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing like that. And being forced to do the chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be some better evidence that she was without a doubt being abused. Ah, I know. Her uncle had ignored Satoko's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover and died. Yes, he went on a year-long booty call. Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Mion had mentioned? Child neglect? Yep, we got it.
それは立派な育児放棄だね。どうなのみーちゃん？
おじが今もいなければ育児放棄は認定されそうだけど、
The police had it on record that he left.
今この瞬間は同居してるわけでしょ。今までは別居だったけど心を入れ替えて同居することにしたなんて言われたら、
Oh, is
ま
that how
た
they're
様
gonna
子見なん
spin
て
it?
ことになりかねないよ。
Once we reported it, we would need to be absolutely sure they'd interpret it as abuse. Maybe we needed far more concrete proof, lest we repeat last year's mistake.
なんだか悲しい。
Yeah, it is.
ということはつまりさとこちゃんが乱暴されて大きな傷が残るまで黙って見てる
That disgusts
こ
me.
となんだよね。
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm kind of hoping he's the one who gets murdered. Again, I do not condone murder, even for stuff like this. Having said that, I also have no sympathy for people who are being abusive towards children, especially children that they are supposed to be responsible for, and especially if it's their family. So it's like the triple whammy. So again, I don't think he deserves to be murdered for this. I'm just saying, if he does get murdered, I'm not going to be sad about it, and I'll actually kind of be happy. This has been Artie's disclosure for the day. The only point I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as that of the officials who made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to a public agency would be a gamble. If we're going to pick a fight, it would have to be one we couldn't afford to lose. If we were gambling, without enough money, without enough evidence, our defeat would be assured. If we took the time to amass enough money, then we could be sure of victory. And that would mean pretending we didn't see Satoko's plight for a considerable amount of time.
こんなところで話を振ってごめんな。リカちゃんはどうして一人暮らしができるんだ？
She's built different. Yeah, Rika, are you okay for all of this? Rika had lost her parents, if I recalled correctly. From what I'd heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was unfettered, free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Satoko too.
ほら、リカちゃんって両親いないのに生活してるだろ。
I agree. I agree. 100%.
保護者のいない子供って孤児院みたいなところに入れられちゃうんじゃないっけ？
圭一君、それひどい。
Well, it's a reasonable question. 12-year-olds cannot live on their own, even back in the 80s.
悪口で言ってるんじゃねえよ。そこにサトコを救うヒントがあるかもしれないと思って聞いてみただけなんだ。リカちゃん、気分を害したならごめんな。
Rika shook her head, not particularly disturbed.
それはですね、実は村長さんちの子供になっているからなのです。
How do you figure that?
補足がいるね。村長の君吉のおじいちゃんが
Oh
リカちゃ
yeah,
んの
that's
保
the
護者
guy
なんだ
Shion
よ。
murdered last chapter.
ちゃんと県知事の許可を得た正式な。
Okay.
え
Oh, that was decent of him.
え、養子みたいなものか？
養子とは違う。別に籍を入れなくても保護者にはなれるんだよ。
分かってきた。つまりリカちゃんは普通に暮らしてるけど、法律の上では村長さんの家に住んでることに
You'd
なっ
think
て
if
る
the
んだ
mayor
ね。
was gonna, like, get guardianship of her, that he'd be like, hey, like, I'll take care of you.
まあそんな
He's
とこ。
old, though.
そのおかげでリカちゃんは孤児院送りを免れてるってわけ。孤児院っていうか児童養護院のことだけど。
She's the mascot. That's true. She is the, like, only remaining living member of, like, one of the 3 big families. So she's actually got a lot of clout, and also everyone loves her because she's cute.
難しいことはよくわかりませんが、つまりはそういうことなのです。
ミオン、今興味深いことを言ったな。席が違っても保護者になれるみたいなことを言ったよな。じゃあ形だけでも村長さんとかがサトコの保護者になってくれればいいんじゃないのか？
Is this where it's going to be like, yeah, but they hate her because her family was for the dam project. Then she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan, and she could go back to her old life.
ところがそうはいかないの。だっておじだって保護者のつもりなん
That's
だ。
also true.
ちょっと待て、わけがわからなくなったぞ。そもそも保護者ってなんだ？
In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So whoever was actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian.
ならおじは保護者じゃないな。ずっとサトコをほったらかしにしてた。
でも保護者だと主張されたらそれまでだよ。サトコが連れ戻されてから数日。その間の食事代はおじの財布から出てるよね。一応面倒を見てると主張できなくもない。それに1年間サトコをほったらかしたとはいえ、最初の1年間は生活の面倒を見た実績
Guys,
がある。
hang on. Big brain idea. We just get Uncle to go on another booty call. All we have to do is set him up with some, like, bimbo. And he goes off. Boom. Problem solved. That's what we're gonna do. We're big braining it. It's not the best thing we could do, but it is one of the only things we can do. And I think honestly, if he had another like bimbo to live with and be like, hey, you can do the housework, then he wouldn't need Satoko anymore. And then Satoko would be like, hey, he left me for a booty call, and then it's like, all right, cool, that's it. Case closed. That's how we're gonna do it. Sometimes you gotta think of the weird solutions. Oh, hi, Lickens. You came in at a very weird time. trigger warning for child abuse in this stream, but yeah, here we are.
でも村長にはその実績はない。
Yeah, that's true.
意地悪なおじさんと村長さんが同時に保護者を主張したら、
That's
おじ
yeah.
さんの方が強いってこと。
I mean, that makes sense. It's like, hey, 2 people are requesting to be her guardian. We got her uncle, and we've got the mayor of the town she's living in. It's like, uncle. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
その可能性が高いってこと。
I don't think Takano would go for that.
それに保護者ってのは
Just
実
need to
際
make a
に面
Tinder
倒を見てる人を
profile
指
for
すんだ
him
よ。
and make him sound a lot better than he is.
実際に寝床や食事を握ってるおじと名義だけ貸そうとしてる村長じゃどうにもならない。
True.
じゃあ村長が実際に生活の面倒を見ればいいじゃないか。
It's a little hard now.
そうすれば名実ともに村長が保護者になれるんだろう。
We're not even including the mayor in on this discussion. We just need to shelter Satoko. That might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but we'll stubbornly refuse him.
そんな簡単にはいかないよ。
I'm telling you.
さとこは育ち盛り
Dating
の女の子
profile.
なん
This is
だ
how
よ
we。get through it.
人間一人の面倒を見てくださいなんて猫の子預けるのとはわけが違う。
True. That's true. Like we need to get the mayor's permission on this.
じゃあ監督
No, I don't want coach. Okay, coach would maybe be an improvement. Again, we haven't actually met the uncle, but I don't want coach adopting her.
監督はどうだよ。
Coach is creepy AF.
監督ってよくは知らないけど勇気なんだよ。
No, we're not going with coach.
自分で言ってたくらいなんだし、本当の親でなくても保護者になれるなら
I don't want coach.
監督でも可能なんだ。
That would be very weird.
監督なら聡子の面倒を立派に見てくれる気がする。
He gives me the creepies.
だから
She's like, not coach. You've heard how he talks.
さとこをペットみたいに考えないでって。ケイちゃんはさっきからさとこを誰かに押し付ける話ばっかり。人間一人の生活の面倒を見る責任ってものをもっと慎重に考えて。監督に聞いたの。さとこを引き取って面倒を見るってちゃんと確約を得たわけ？
そんなの得てないよ。
Yesn't.
でも監督なら絶対に OK するだろう。
Like I've said, coach is definitely on a list or two. He's not getting guardianship of her, and for good reason.
まあいいよ。100歩譲って監督が OK したとするよ。でもダメなんだよ。保護者は独身じゃダメなんだよ。
Very true. Ah, that's right. Coach. Didn't he say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit! What the hell? Why is it being single such a disadvantage in this society? I mean, it makes sense that if you're single, you're not adopting kids. Kids generally need a mom and a dad. Also, if single people were easily allowed to adopt, that would probably cause a lot of bad situations, like what's happening with Satoko right now. that all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, couldn't you?
ひなみ沢にそんなお金持ちはいるのかな。
Well, rich.
難しそう。
Generally speaking, if you're wealthy, you're not living in Hick Boondocksville.
ね。簡単じゃないんだよ。
I mean, at least he knows about Coach, so.
人間一人引き取るってのは
Yeah, it's very true.
誰かに押し付けようなんて短絡的な考えがそもそもダメなの。考えが浅いんだよ、ケイちゃんは。
なんなんだよ、チクショー、チクショー。俺は必死に聡子を救おうと考えてるのに、ダメだダメだってそればっかり。お前ら、本当は聡子のことなんかどうでもいいんだろ。
I'm sure she does. She just, is trying to be realistic about it. She also does not want the cops sniffing around.
仲間のこと本気で心配してないんだろ。どうなんだよ。
そんなつもりないよ。でもそう簡単にはいかないっていうか。
Yep.
そんな難しい話じゃねえだろ。裕福な奴が聡子をしばらく面倒見てくれればいい。それだけのことだぞ。
I'm telling you, all we actually need to do is just have Uncle go on a booty call again. Given the kind of person he is, I don't think it would be difficult. We can pull it off.
そうだ。ミオンチはどうだよ。お前、御三家とかいう立派な家柄なんだって自慢してたよな。
I also don't want that. Mion's family runs a torture dungeon in their backyard.
話じゃ、ものすごいでかい家に住んでるそうじゃない
Is
か。
there nobody normal who lives in this town? I think... No, Toмотake doesn't live in the town. He is the most normal character in this, though.
うち無理無理。そんなのバチャが許してくれるはずない。
True, Grandma probably isn't too cool. Like, what the heck? We're not getting another person in here.
じゃあ
I don't know why
沖縄に
Wendy
住ん
will
でる
back
親
as
は
her
どうだ
grandma,
よ
but
聞いた話じゃこっちもかなりの豪邸に住んで
I
る
don't
らしい
want
じ
her
ゃない
living
か
with Shion either. Shion's insane.
町には親類の経営する店がたくさんあるそうだし立派な資産家じゃないかよおい。
ダメダメダメ。沖宮の家なんてもっとダメ。うちのお父さんそんなの絶対に許さない。
おいおいおいおい
Hey, hey.
普段は散々大物ぶりを自慢しといてここ一番で及び腰かよ。なんなんだよお前里子を見殺しにする気かよ。
そんなつもりはないけど、そりゃ私だって里子は助けてやりたいよ。
Want to bet?
でもそれとこれじゃ話が。
Keiichi's very good at getting loud and emotional.
話が違うってのかよ冷てえやつ。仲間の危機だろ。ここで救わなかったら何なんだよ。部長だろ部活の救えよ仲間の危機をよ。今ここで救わなかったら仲間じゃねえ人じゃね
Alright, Keiichi, you're going a little bit too drama queen here.
え。お前の人間性が問われてるんだよ。聞いてるのかよミオ。
You're gonna get punched. My emotions all exploded out of me, and I didn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I had to force her. If she did, Satoko's problems would be solved. If pushing her would solve the issue, then I'd push her as much as I needed to.
何さっきから黙り込んでんだよ。聞いてるのかこの野郎。どうなんだよ。なんとか言ってるよ園崎ミオ。
み
Rika's like, you're being a little weird and over the top. Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenched into trembling fists, and she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. She's breaking down crying. Rika's just like, this is better than TV. Was what I said actually that mean? Yeah? This isn't the time to cry. We're in the gambling room now, and we have to do something to save Satoko. As I thought that, Rena spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm.
ケイチ君、みーちゃんちがダメなら他の裕福な家を探したら。
We need rich people. Poor people, no. We need rich people.
私、ひなみ沢に立派な豪邸建てて住んでる人。
I know what she's about to say.
誰だよ。
白々しいよ。あれだけ立派な家に住んでて、自分の家だけは蚊帳の外。
俺んちかよ。俺の家は
仲間なんでしょ。救ってよ圭一君が。
Rena, alright. You know, I gotta say, Rena, when she takes her meds, is probably the best character.
みーちゃんはダメだってさ、冷たいから。
And actually, if Rena doesn't take her meds, she's also the best character, but for a completely different reason.
じゃあ仲間思いの圭一君がお手本示さなきゃダメだね。あれだけ大きなお家に家族3人で住んでるんだ
Oh
って。
man, Rena, you're the
じゃ
best.
あ空き部屋なんかいくらでもあるよね。余ってるお部屋いくつかさとこちゃんに分けてあげればいいじゃない。それでめでたくさとこちゃんの悩みは解決。
This is gonna be so awkward to explain to our parents. Just like, Mom, Dad, we need to adopt this girl for my school. It's like, what? Why? Who even is she? Okay, so remember when you guys went to Tokyo for a week and I said that I cooked for myself? Yeah. I didn't. I had this 12-year-old girl do it for me. What? Anyways, this is the 12-year-old girl we need to adopt. Are you gonna adopt her just because you don't want to cook for yourself? No, Mom, it's not the reason.
あら何？これでもう終わり？あっけない話だったね。はいはい解決お疲れ様。じゃあもう今日はいい？私帰るね。ランランラン。今日は久しぶりに宝探しにでも行こうかな。昨日まではずっとさとこちゃんのことが心配で全然遊ぶ気になんかならなかったし。
Oh my gosh, Rena, you're the best.
今日はどんな宝物が見つかるかな。はう。なんか言ってよ。私だけ喋りずくめ。黙ってんじゃないわよ。
Alright, no, sorry, Rena forgot to take her meds today. Even the cicadas seem to cower in fear. Okay, Rena, you're being maybe a little bit out there. Rena, her shoulders bobbing up and down, and me, who had forgotten to breathe. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale, and Rika, who was keeping silent as if nothing had happened. Rika's just enjoying the TV program. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. The sound of the chair as Rena sat back down, having stood up, finally allowed everyone present to take a breath. Rena had shown me just how much I'd hurt Mion.
レナが怖いのです。
True. But also, she's based. After a few moments, Rika-chan cut the frozen air.
ごめんねリカちゃん。みーちゃんもごめん。ケイチ君には謝らなくてもいいよね。
Nope, he deserved that.
ああ、ごめん。めちゃくちゃなこと言って悪かった。
さっきのあれ、私に言ってたの？みーちゃん睨みながら言ってたから、私てっきりみーちゃんに言ってるもんだとばかり思ってた。
Rena had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was spout terrible fiends as a wave of violent fury passed over me. I couldn't contend with her.
ミオン、ごめん。頭に血が上ってた。
Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me that riled up. I thought of myself as Satoko's Nini. Oh, hey guys, Shaggy's playing Dead by Daylight. Again! So I only had good intentions, that I'd think about it a little harder than anyone else, and yet...
いいよ。私こそケイちゃんが一生懸命悩んでるのに、あれはダメこれはダメばっかりって。
I think we all know the real reason Mion didn't want Satoko living with her. It would be hard to explain the torture bunker.
ごめんね。私も悪かった。
Mion rubbed away the tears as the corner of her eyes with her fists and apologized as well. We bowed our heads to each other and looked down without glancing at the other. Someone, I don't know who, heaved a sigh. I think it was you, Satoko being tormented, had been known about since last year. How had the tragedy back then saved Satoko? How had they brought it to an end? I'm telling you, you just set up her uncle with a match on Tinder. I'm 5 steps ahead, alright? I don't think that's actually going to happen, but... To be fair, it's easy to assume Mion doesn't have feelings with how she acts 98% of the time. In the end, nobody could do anything. All they could do was bear it patiently and wait for those agonizing days to end. That's right. The one who brought it to an end, those terrible days, was some crazy drug addict nobody knew. On the night of the Tatarigoroshi last year, their main aunt had been beaten to death. But it hadn't been done to save Satoko or Satoshi. Right. It really was just a coincidence. Satoko's friends, who needed to do something for her most of all, could do nothing. The incident may have been a tragic one, but from Satoko's viewpoint, it was nothing less than a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle one could only wait for.
待つしかないのかよ。
Keiichi's like, I got it! We've got to get a drug addict to kill the uncle!
俺たちには。
Not for evidence of abuse, not for something that minor.
何をかな。
奇跡。
No one made fun of me for using such a crazy word. We couldn't come up with any solutions, so it was the only other thing we could do.
無力なんだよ。私たちは。
That one word Mion dropped was the finishing blow. It was hot. My body was sticky with sweat. The worst month. June. Hey! I have objection! June is the best month. And not just because my birthday's in June. But that is a contributing factor. Oh, no new tips. I thought it was going to be, you unlock the tip, how to save Satoko. But that would be the visual novel equivalent of a super guide. I walked forward quite a ways, then turned right where the rice fields ended. I'd never come here before, so I had no idea where to go. I got lost several times, so I may have taken quite a long way around. Maybe I should have gone back home and gotten my bike first. It would have made everyone else worry if I had asked them. So I asked one of our other classmates where Satoko's actual house was. Japan is very hot. Is it hotter than, like, the United States? I don't know. You have to understand, folks, my, like, worst subject in school back then and still to this day is anything relating to geography or navigation. So I don't know geologically where Japan is with regards to the equator or, like, the North and South Pole, but if it gets hot, if it gets like super hot, that is news to me. I would believe it if it got hotter than Michigan, but I would not believe if it got hotter than Texas. I asked one of our classmates where Satoko's actual house was. That house was originally her family's, apparently, not their uncle and his wife's. Their house had been bigger, so they had taken it for themselves. Right here. Several houses all in a line. Over there. I was visiting Satoko's house, but didn't particularly intend to meet her there. I didn't mean to spy on the enemy, her mean Uncle Ivor. Maybe I just wanted to be a little closer to her, as her Nini. Pretty words, but I didn't know if they were true. It was 94 when you went last month? Okay, that's pretty hot. What if Tomita... Oh, last month? That in September. Oh, okay. So maybe it's warmer than I thought there. I thought it was just kind of like... Not generic weather, but like fairly consistent weather year-round. Or like it got really cold in winter, and then was like just kind of okay in summer. If what Tomita-kun and the others had told me was right, it'd be this house? When I recognized it, my feet grew heavy. What did I come here for? My motive for coming here was absurd. When Mion had said at the end that we were powerless, it made me sort of frustrated. I just wanted to do something. Anything other than waste the days away praying for a miracle. That's what made me come here. But that was all. Even if I were to witness her uncle actually tormenting Satoko, what could I do? Would I act like a comic book hero, punch the guy in the face, and take Satoko away from me? And then live together somewhere far away? That was ridiculous.
俺は無力だ。
The cicadas' voices, raised in chorus, sounded like they were scoffing at me. As if they were saying that if I couldn't do anything and wouldn't do anything, then I should go back home. I heard a car approaching, so I got out of its way. But the car stopped right behind me, its horn honking shortly once. Annoyed, hadn't I gotten out of their way? I looked behind me, and a familiar face was looking at me out of the driver's seat window.
監督。
こんにちは、前原さん。
Oh no, Coach is creeping on Satoko.
こんなところでお会いするとは本当に奇
At
妙で
least
す。
it's not the police officer who hurt me.
お家は近くなんですか？
Why am I happy to see Coach? No, Coach is bad. Bad. We don't want Coach. But he's less bad than certain other characters this timeline. Compared Japan to Florida in terms of weather, that is shocking to me. Me being here wasn't normal. Just as I considered somehow giving him the slip, I noticed Satoko sitting in the passenger seat. Wait, what?
Satoko?
No! Empty eyes again. Satoko got out of the car and began unloading a lot of groceries from the trunk.
買い物の帰りに偶然監督にお会いしたんですのよ。
What a coincidence!
送ってくださるというのでお言葉に甘えたのですわ。
自転車でこんなに買い物をしたら運びきれませんからね。
As Coach spoke, he pulled Satoko's bike out from the back seat where they'd put it. The grocery bags were big, and there were 4 of them. They all seemed to be packed full and very heavy.
この袋セブンスマート？おいおい、自転車で行くにはちょっと遠すぎないか？
It's probably preferable to being at home. I looked at the bags and saw they were filled to the brim with sake bottles. Snacks that you'd eat with sake and boxes of cigarettes. Oh, wow, man. The freaking uncle just sounds like a real winner. Everything is a red flag. Their weight was one thing, but their contents were nothing less than luxury items.
監督のおかげで助かりましたわ。ちょっと坂道は辛かったですから。
Satoko gave Coach a smile filled with gratitude, but it was incredibly awkward and even heartrending.
サトコ、この買い物、今晩の晩飯ってわけじゃ
We're
ない
having
だろ。
cigarettes for dinner. It's delicious.
当然ですわ。私お酒なんか飲めませんし、おつまみも嫌いですし。
What kind of a kid hates snacks?
タバコなんか吸うわけ。
Well, I have a feeling that if her life continues this way, she might start to smoke and drink. He He made Satoko go to a distant store by herself on her bike so she could buy dumb shit like this? What was the uncle doing right now, anyway? He must have been working up a good sweat at this very moment if he needed to send Satoko out by herself, right? If not, then how much had Satoko suffered for no reason? I hadn't intended to voice my feelings, but they may have made it into my face. Coach might have noticed because he clapped me on the shoulder. Just then, one of the house windows clattered open, and the face of a vulgar man, the very sight of which made me immediately avert my eyes, emerged from within it. There were no self-introductions necessary. My gut told me that this was the uncle in question. Do we get a Sprite? The first thing out of his mouth should have been words of gratitude for Satoko.
Satoko!
Oh, it's Teppei, that is his name.
缶のガスかけっぱなしで出よったんだ、この。
Great.
ごめんなさい。でもすぐに買いに行けって言ったから。
やかましいわ。せっかくの近所台無しにしよってん。どうしよってんじゃ。
ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい。
Satoko miserably apologized over and over, bowing again and again. She could be perfectly described as a small animal. I had no idea what was happening. Satoko finished shopping for all this heavy stuff that wasn't even for dinner. She only managed to come back because she ran into Coach and he drove her home. If she hadn't been found by him, she'd surely still be by herself, panting and moaning, pedaling her bicycle up that steep hill. What was with those words, those horrible, sleazy words for what he said to Satoko? In what country's dictionary did it tell him to say such things? To a young girl who just finished shopping! My anger, of course, wouldn't reach him. The uncle displayed no interest in me, instead shouting at Coach.
Why
is everyone calling him doctor? Is he actually a doctor?
こんにちは。そしたら先生も上がっていきますか。もうオーラスですからすぐ入れますよ。
Great! Just trying to butter him up in a sleazy way.
何でもありで。
いえ、遠慮します。さとこちゃんとは偶然お会いしたんで、ちょっとお送りしてあげただけです。すぐに失礼します。
そんな、ちょっとぐらいやっててくださいな。
Is this guy like a professional gambler? Is that what he does?
先生、お金持ちじゃないですか。
This guy sounds terrible. I didn't even understand what her uncle and Coach were talking about. Maybe he's a bookie. But I knew one thing for sure. None of what he just said had been to thank Satoko in any way.
さとこ、とっととカキも持ってこんかい。ビールも冷めてもうた。
This guy doesn't eat. He just consumes alcohol for his sustenance.
冷蔵庫から冷えてるの出してく
He's
れ
one
な。
of these people.
てっちゃん、娘に厳しすぎや。
What the heck? There's a thug living with her? This is terrible. He's even worse than man.
もうちょい言いたわらんと返せやで。
Actually, never mind. Maybe Thug is an upstanding guy.
あんな娘にゃ、兄貴んちにいた頃からそうでよ。甘やかすと親の言うことをなんも聞かんやっちゃよ。
Okay, wow, they do a great job of introducing him as just exactly the kind of scumbag you'd expect.
それよか、てっちゃんが妻だぜよ。
椿さんリーチしよったで。
おお、悪い悪い。なんね。椿、あんたまたリーチかいな。
Oh, what the heck is Tsubaki doing here? It looked like it wasn't just her uncle. Some of his friends were over. Hey, wait. What was he... No, what were they doing? Flinging rude words left and right, making Satoko go shopping for your beer? What were they doing?
町からおじさまのお友達が来てて、麻雀やってますの。
Mahjong, eh?
お友達のお夕食もご用意するように言われてますのよ。
This poor girl.
なんだよ、それ。
Mahjong? He called his friends over for Mahjong? They were too busy playing, so they sent Satoko to buy them a crapload of booze from a faraway store. And the first thing he said to her was how she left the gas on? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
何やってんだよ、あいつ。麻雀ってそんなのに遊びほうけて。
Unfortunately, Keiichi, I don't think you could take Uncle on, let alone Uncle plus like 3 thugs. Even though Coach was listening, he pretended he wasn't. There was a line of heavy-looking shopping bags lined up on the ground next to the trunk.
さあ、前原さんも手伝ってあげてください。ほら、男の子なんですから。
監督、こんなのまかり通っていいんですか？
There's probably not a lot Coach can do.
こんなの絶対に。
Coach pretended he hadn't heard that violent outburst either. When I thought about it later, his reaction might have been the best thing he could do in that situation.
私も
Don't
2つ持
stoke
ち
the
ますから
fires, essentially.
ほら前原さんも持つのを手伝ってあげてください
The bags were packed to the brim with bottles of sake and bar snacks. They were so heavy, and so filthy, so unfair. They weren't just heavy in terms of weight. They made me feel mortified. Nothing could have been heavier than that.
ケイチさん、無理しないでいいんですのよ。私も持ちますわ。
Satoko mistook my biting back the humiliation as grimacing under the weight, and offered to help.
バカ俺をなめるな
Satoko had never looked down on my physical strength in the slightest.
監督もすみませんわね。重いでしょ
No, not at all, answered Coach, smiling vaguely, coolly. But I, and I alone, knew. Coach was an adult, so he just knew how to keep his feelings from showing. There was even more anger than I was feeling, burning deep in his eyes.
いや
Would have been funny if there was literal fire in his eyes.
重いですね
Shit! It wasn't very far to get to the doorstep of Satoko's house, but the bag squeezed my palms and started leaving red marks. Fury welled up in me, and the back of my throat stung. But even if it all came gushing out, it wouldn't solve anything. So, just tightly gritting my teeth was as much as I could do.
本当にありがとうございますですわ。監督もケイチさんもおかげで本当に助かりましたでございます。
After we carried them to the back door, Satoko said that was enough. Occasionally, we'd hear the repulsive laughing of her uncle and his friends inside, and my insides would seethe. I knew they weren't ridiculing us, and that was why it made me so mad. They'd made Satoko shop for all this heavy, selfish stuff, and then ignored her and laughed amongst themselves as they pleased. It was deeply aggravating. Of course, Coach had to have felt the same way. But if he accidentally let his feelings slip onto his face, he'd only cause Satoko more worry. He knew all that, and spoke coolly, as if to say he didn't care.
いいえささやかでもお力になれたなら幸いお手伝いできそうなことがあったらいつでも言ってくださいね
ええ、お気持ちだけでも本当に嬉しいですわ。
That he feels that way. Those words were sad. Satoko herself was sad and resigned that we could only help her so much. But she was right. No matter how much Coach or I want to help Satoko, this was as much as we could do. I felt absolutely ashamed at not having the power to help her any more than this. Burning, boiling emotions were bubbling up within me and rising into my throat. Trembling all over, I almost started to cry from my fury.
俺も力になれることがあったらいつでも力を貸すからその頑張れよな
I wanted to, at least. Give her those trite words saying that I'd help her whenever she wanted.
ええ、ありがとうございますわ。わざわざこうしてここまで来てくださっただけでも嬉しかったですわ。
Satoko seemed to have guessed what I was doing in a place like this, when my house was in the opposite direction from school.
さあ、もう行った方がよろしいですわ。今は酔っ払ってますから、どんな難癖をつけられるかわかりませんわよ。
The fact that she is this casual about it is really disturbing. She felt guilty getting us involved after we'd helped her, because she wanted to be the only one to suffer this misfortune. That's how it looked, and it hurt. I handed my supermarket bag over to Satoko, and then I noticed the back of Satoko's hand. There was something that looked like a bruise.
おいサトコこのあざどうしたんだよ
I knew as much as anyone else how transparent that sounded. I didn't need to hear it from Satoko to know how this bruise came to be.
階段で転んだ時にちょっと打っただけですのよ。気になさらないでくださいませ。
嘘だろ
Coach nudged me in the back. And then he put his index finger to his mouth to chide me for being so loud.
本当にありがとうございましたですわ。では明日、学校でお会いできるといいですわね。
そんな話してないだろ。その手のあざはどうしたって聞いてるんだよ。
The evening glow finally got to a point where I could see the other concealed oval-shaped bruises and traces of swelling on her neck and her legs. And other places too. How did you see it on her legs? She's wearing tights.
階段から落ちたんですの。
That is one of the most disturbing laughs I've heard. But for a very different reason than the other disturbing laughs. The very moment my violent rampaging emotions were about to burst their way out of my throat, I found my mouth being tightly clamped down on. Oh boy. Coach was pressing down on my mouth from behind, wrapping me around tightly with his hands. Because of that, I couldn't say anything. I could only groan. Which I did. That was all I could do. I needed to expel all the magma sitting deep within me. Because otherwise I'd surely explode into a million pieces at that very moment. So I groaned. I groaned. From my mouth. From my whole body. While heat fell in drops from my eyes. I groaned and groaned. I groaned to the point of exhaustion. I run absolutely everything out of myself. Even having lost my voice, I was still wringing it all out.
気持ちはわかります。わかりますから前原さん、今だけこらえてください。お願いですから、前原さん。
Endure it for now? And then what, huh? What would happen to her? To Satoko? Her body and mind were wounded, and she was being made to suffer like this. Can you not even let me howl in vain at it? Is that it, Coach? Are we this powerless? So powerless that we can't even fucking scream from the bottom of our hearts? The voices of the Higurashi made me calm down. I didn't know how long it had been. Satoko abruptly gave a slight bow.
ありがとうございますですわ、ケイチさん。
さとこ。
今、ケイチさんが本当のニーニーみたいに見えました。私の本当のニーニーはいなくなってしまったけど、私にはケイチさんというニーニーがいてくれる。
そうだ。俺がお前のニーニーだ。お前が辛い時絶対に助けてやるから。ニーニーがサトコをきっと助けてやるからな。
Satoshi Hojo, you fucking idiot. If not now, then when? Satoko, she's never been in more pain in her life. If her Nini doesn't save her now, then when will he? Why did you run away? Why did you abandon her? Why did you leave Satoko behind? You don't have any right to call yourself Satoko's Nini.
俺は逃げないからな。絶対に逃げない。サトシみたいにお前を見捨てて逃げたりしない。絶対に俺はお前を見捨てない。
Slip. Tears trickled down from Satoko's eyes. And then she narrowed her eyes into a smile.
さよなら、ニーニー。
Satoko took her right hand and awkwardly waved to me.
大丈夫ですわ。今のニーニーので私いっぱい力をもらいましたから。大丈夫。明日まで頑張れますから。大丈夫だから今日はさよならでございますわよ。
She's a tough cookie. There was no way that I could say, bye, see you tomorrow. And then, from inside the house, came a throaty, disgusting voice.
サトコ、はよ乾きも持ってこんかい。
さあ、ニーニー、早く行ってくださいませ。もう、私は大丈夫ですから、早く。
行きましょう、前原さん。これ以上は、かえってサトコちゃんに迷惑をかけます。
監督、ニーニーのお家は ちょっと遠いんですの。申し訳ございませんが、送ってあげていただけます？
She probably doesn't want us doing something stupid on the way home.
ええ、わかりました。
Thanks, Coach. Coach grabbed me by my collar, and with strength I couldn't have imagined him having, started dragging me away. And I, unable to oppose him, started getting farther away from Satoko. She waved her hand to us, expression still dark, and disappeared through the back door. Jeez, that scene was well written and tragic. But also, like, this is the stuff in Higurashi where this is the stuff in visual novels that's really good. Like, I know it's horrifying, but this is the kind of stuff that is, like, very engrossing to read. Maybe that makes me weird. Yeah, probably. Look, Keiichi, he's an emotional teenage boy, so he just says stuff without thinking. He does that all the time in this game. Coach got into the car first, then turned around on the narrow path and brought the passenger side door around for me. Sorry, it detaches from the vehicle. Just put it
前原
back
さん
on.
の気持ちは痛いくらいにわかります。いえ、前原さん以上にわかる。
Wanna bet?
でも、今この場だけはこらえてください。あなたの心は確かに伝わりましたから。だから、こらえてください。
Easier said than done.
でないと。
もう分かってます。すみません。さっきはありがとうございました。
I meekly got into the passenger seat. The car accelerated quietly, and Satoko's house grew farther and farther away in the rearview mirror. We made a wide turn, and then I couldn't see her house anymore.
え？あなたのお家、
This
そん
wait,
な遠く
wait
に
on, this is Uisi's car!
学校の反対側じゃないですか。
I didn't bother to reply. I would have been hard-pressed to give him an answer as to why I was at Satoko's house. Coach didn't say anything more either. For a while, the two of us were silent, the only sounds from the gravel spraying over the road as we drove. I remembered how Rena said things were different than last year. At the time, she had Satoshi with her. Satoshi protected Satoko, so that less of the sparks fell onto her.
でも今はサトシはいない。
はい。残酷ですが、それが事実です。
Coach seemed to understand what I really meant when I said that.
悲しく、あまりに残酷な話ですが、私たちの決意や努力、尽力には限界があります。
Honestly, if they just took out the part about Coach being a weird pervert, like, he'd be a great character. Why did they have to put that part in? Maybe there's a future reason for that, but, like, I'm serious. If they just made it so that Coach was, like, the reasonable adult, like, he'd be one of my favorite characters. It sounded like an excuse, but he was right. Even if Coach and I wanted to be people Satoko could depend on, that was all. It ended at the front door. No matter how much I shouted that I would be her Nini, no matter how much I shouted that I wouldn't abandon her, and no matter how much Satoko called me Nini, I couldn't do any more than that.
サトシは一体どこに行っちまったんですか？
I think Carmen Sandiego stole him. Right. Satoshi was another story. Her actual brother, Satoshi, he was in a position to protect her far, far better than we ever could. That was the cold, sad truth of the massive gulf between Satoshi and us.
今頃、どこでどうしているんでしょう。
Satoshi left home. I didn't know why. Maybe it was because of Oyashiro-sama's curse, or he disappeared or something. In any case, he wasn't beside Satoko now. At that time, Satoko needed him to protect her most. He wasn't there. When the world needed him most, he vanished.
どうして今ここにいないんですか？
Maybe he's dead.
一番守ってやらなければならないこの時に。
お社様のたたりがどうとかいろいろ言われてますが、家出したとしか言えません。
ある日を境に帰ってこないって仲間が言ってました。妹の聡子に書き置き一つ残さずに家出を。
サトシ君はコツコツとアルバイトをしてたんです。
Someone in that family had to earn money.
サトコちゃんが当時とても大きなぬいぐるみを欲しがってましてね。結構いい値段らしくて、 そのためにアルバイトをいろいろとしていたら
that's
しい
so
んで
nice
す。
of him.
妹思いの兄でしたからね。おじ夫婦のもとで不憫な生活を強いられている妹に少しでも立派な誕生日プレゼントを贈ろうとしているんじゃないかってみんなささやき合っていました。
Satoshi sounds like a winner. Betting $10 that Satoshi had Keiichi's fate in Chapter 1. I could see that. We were the real Satoshi was us the whole time. In the end, he didn't use his savings for a birthday present for Satoko.
サトシ君がいなくなり警察がいろいろと調べたらサトシ君の貯金が当日すべて本人によって下ろされていることが分かりました。方々をいろいろと調べた結果その貯金を資金に東京の方に行ったんではないかということになりました。
東京？何しに？
家出としか言いようがないじゃないですか。
Presumably, he was going to try to start a new life in Tokyo.
自分が逃げ出すための資金をコツコツと貯めて
It's possible.
そこまでは勝手ですよ。でも聡子を置いていくことはないじゃないですか。同じ家出するなら聡子も連れて行くべきだった。
Even now, Coach was still calm. He wasn't trying to pour any oil on the fire of my anger at all. He just waited until my anger naturally subsided. After listening to gravel being crushed under the wheels for a little while, Coach spoke abruptly.
察してください。置いていかれた聡子ちゃんも同じ考えに至ったんです。
I'm a burden on my brother, and that's why he abandoned me. He didn't take her with him when he left. How terrible must Satoko have felt, being betrayed by the brother she loved so much.
でも聡子ちゃんはとても強い人でした。もちろん親しい友人たちの支えもあってのことでしたが、ああして笑顔を取り戻すことができました。
I recalled how Satoko had spoken of Satoshi so brightly when I was eating dinner with her and Rika just a few days ago. That was just a few days ago? Jeez Louise! At that time, I didn't think any more of it than how pleasant their sibling love had been. But now that I think about it, I realized it was like she was peering into the distance from atop a pile of tragic perseverance.
サトシ君はきっと帰ってくる。その時までにお荷物じゃなくなった自分を見てほしいって。
聡子はお荷物なんかじゃないですよ。あいつ俺なんかよりよっぽど生活力はあるし、大抵のことは何だってできる。そりゃレナやリカちゃんなんかと比べれば劣る点はたくさんあるかもしれないけど、そこいらのやつよりよっぽど一人前ですよ。
It's true, she's kind of living on her own for a while.
サトシ君がいつ帰ってきてもいいように、そういう風になれるよう努力した結果です。涙ぐましい努力があったんですよ。
While she lived with Rika, while Rika taught her how to handle everything flawlessly, all so that she could welcome back Satoshi at any time, so that she could show him that she wasn't ashamed.
で、そのサトシはいつ帰ってくるん
You
ですか
think Coach knows? I asked Coach, but knew he wouldn't be able to answer. In any case, Satoshi ran away. He left Satoko and ran away from Hinamizawa. Someone said that when you leave Hinamizawa and run away, Oyashiro-sama's curse gets you, right? Then, that made sense. Satoshi running away and his disappearance, that would obviously mean people thought it was a curse, right? And they could smile, as though it were his own fault, as though he got what he deserved. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, whoever you are, Satoshi didn't vanish because he ran away. You demoned him away with your curse, didn't you? If that's not what happened, then I won't forgive you.
サトシはいつ頃逃げ出したんですか？
去年の綿流しのお祭りの夜、
Oh, he definitely disappeared.
おばが異常者に殺されて、その数日後の聡子ちゃんの誕生日にです。
Her birthday's a few days after with Tanagashi.
聡子の誕生日に？
Do we know that before? I don't remember. That's not what a Bane sounds like. I slammed my hands on the dashboard in front of me with all my might. You're gonna trigger the airbag. Satoshi. Of all the days, he could have chosen to run away. Their aunt just died a few days before, didn't she? All your days of suffering were about to end, weren't they? How do you know that? You were just about to start thinking about a new life, weren't you? It's wrong to be happy about someone dying, but for Satoko and her brother, her birthday had come at a critical turning point. Their mean uncle had fled town, and the siblings would be left alone. They should have been able to be happy about that on Satoko's birthday. Satoko was probably waiting for her brother to return the whole time. Waiting for her brother to return when he never did. Waiting with bated breath for her brother to return. Her hopes and dreams of a new life to come growing even larger. But no matter how long she waited, he didn't come back. He didn't even contact her. Satoko trembling in anticipation of a great present. Just when would she have to face the cold, terrible truth? Satoshi, you fucking idiot! I could feel my blood rising to my head in my anger at Satoshi. I was frustrated. I was aggravated. I couldn't forgive him. Satoko still respected and adored her brother, and yet he so heartlessly betrayed her. Such a person wouldn't just come back, now when he was most needed. Yes, no one would protect her. Not even her real brother Satoshi.
だから、あなたがニーニーだと認めてもらえて嬉しかったです。
え？
私も聡子ちゃんの幸せを祈る一人ですが、社会的立場があり、日中は仕事をしている身です。私が聡子ちゃんのために割いてあげられる時間は少ない。でもあなたは違います。学校で生活を共にし、聡子ちゃんやサトシ君とも年はほとんど離れていない。
True.
あなたは自分ができることに限りがあると思っていますが、それでも私よりはずっと聡子ちゃんに手を差し伸べられる場所にいるのです。だから私の分まで聡子ちゃんの力になってあげてほしい。そう願っています。
そんなことは監督だって。
もちろん年季のある私だからこそできる助けだっていろいろあると思います。同じようにあなたにしかできない助けだってあるということです。私たちは互いにそれを全うすべきだと申し上げたいのです。
Was that a little too complicated? Coach added that, but I shook my head in response. When I heard him say he had job skills, it reminded me that he was an adult, in a different position from all of us. Maybe I should ask him about it.
監督は法律とか詳しいですか？
いえ、平均的に疎いですが。何か
He doesn't know he's breaking some laws. I thought back when I argued with Mion and the others about Satoko. Our children's argument had only left us with the conclusion that we had to wait and see. But what would an adult think?
児童福祉法でしたっけ？児童の安全を確保するために緊急措置として親子を分離させるという方法があるそうです。
緊急措置？じゃあすぐに聡子をおじの元から救い出せるということじゃないですか？
聡子ちゃんがそれを望まないかもしれません。
え？
虐待されている本人が避難を望まなければ弱いでしょうから。
聡子が望まない？どうして？
Coach didn't answer me. I didn't know why he didn't. It was clear as day that Satoko's uncle was being violent and treating her like a slave. So then why? I clamped down on my frenzied emotions and waited intently for Coach to answer. But he never did. It wasn't like he was pretending he hadn't heard me. If I had to say, it was more like he wanted to explain but couldn't put it into the right words.
聡子ちゃんは多分そういういじめに耐えるのを試練だと考えているかもしれません。
That's messed up.
試練？変な宗教じゃあるまいし。
ご存知と思いますが、サトシ君は聡子ちゃんをずっとかばってきました。
We literally just talked about that.
聡
What
子
do you
ちゃん
mean
も
you might know
ずっ
this?
とサトシ君に頼ってきました。
You literally just told us this.
甘えてきたと言うべきかもしれません。
I'd known for a while that Satoshi had always protected Satoko from their aunt and uncle. But that was his duty as an older brother, not something to worry about.
それがトラウマになったかもしれないんですよ。自分が兄にもたれかかりすぎたから、兄が自分を嫌ってしまったんではないかってね。
As for Satoko, the current situation was a retelling of the story of a little over a year ago. But this time, Satoshi wasn't here.
だから誰にも頼らずに自分の力だけで試練を乗り越えたい。そういう力を身につけなければサトシ君は帰ってこない。 そういう考えになっていると私は考えます。
Now that he mentioned it, Satoko had never said a bad word about how hard it had been before. I figured she was being threatened not to talk about it, but
みんなと相談して児童相談所とかに通報すべきかなんて話をしてました。
聞いてますよね。昨年も福祉士さんが聡子ちゃんのところに行ってるのは。
はい、結局様子見で余計にいじめられたって話も。
あれ、聡子ちゃんが自分で通報したらしいんです。でその結果余計いじめが水面下へ移行してエスカレートした。聡子ちゃんに降りかかるいじめも増え、それをかばうサトシ君の負担も著しく増え。ひょっとして聡子、それ通報した自分の責任だなんて思ってるんじゃ。
Coach nodded quietly.
多分聡子ちゃんに通報の話をするととても嫌がるか、その必要はないと強がりを言うと思います。聡子ちゃんに内緒で通報したとしても福祉士に対して自分は虐待を受けていないと言い張るでしょうね。
Yikes. Satoko always acts tough and doesn't readily admit defeat, so I could imagine that easily.
一応児童相談所には裁判所の許可も当事者の許可も一切不要で緊急措置ができる強い権限があるんだそうです。虐待が公然の事実なら聡子ちゃんが否定しても身柄は強制的に保護されるでしょう。それは聡子ちゃんにとっては負けを意味するものなのかもしれませんが。
勝ち負けの問題じゃないですよ。聡子は現実に。
話を折りますが、身柄が保護されると養護院等の施設に送致されます。そうするとですね、そこで暮らすことになるので、つまり引っ越しということになります。ですから学区変更で転校にもなります。
転校は仕方ないです。それであいつが保護されるなら。
聡子ちゃんはその辺の事情も知っています。
Yeah, it does complicate matters.
だからますます保護を望みません。
どうして？
あの家でサトシ君の帰りを待つのが聡子ちゃんの生きる理由だからですよ。
Well, she needs a new one.
兄に捨てられ廃人同然になりかけた少女が何に生きる理由を見出したか、あなたのでなく聡子ちゃんの価値観で考えてあげてください。
Felt like he was trying to confuse me with that hard to understand roundabout way of talking so unique to adults. The point was that I couldn't do anything about Satoko wanting to stay in that house, and that I should watch until she gives in. In the end, no matter what I said, Coach himself was saying to wait and see.
俺はわかりませんよ。
はい。
俺は本当に聡子が危ないと感じたら誰の意思も聞かずに通報します。その結果聡子は不快な思いをして俺を恨むことがあるかもしれないけど、最終的にはそれが聡子の幸せにつながると信じます。
Coach turned to me and gazed fixedly into my eyes. It was written all over his face. He was shocked at what such a young kid had said.
どうしてあなたはそこまで。
Coach, no, rather, normal adults might not have understood. So I taught him the creed and the values that I believed in.
聡子は俺の仲間だから。そして俺は聡子のニーニーだから。
Well, you're not.
理由は足りませんか？
I stared at him with a will strong and unbreakable as steel as his eyes betrayed a tiny bit of unrest.
いえ、足りないなんてことはありません。
We were silent for a little while, until finally Coach said only that. By the way, Coach is like, by the way, I don't know where you live, and you haven't told me, so we've just been driving in circles.
誓ったじゃないですか、俺たち。
すみません。
Yeah, you guys made this really huge deal about like that we have to promise to never make her cry.
聡子を絶対に泣かせないって。
We made a vow on that day of the barbecue. I didn't think about it hard at all, but Coach and I still made a promise. that we would never let Satoko cry. Coach gave a dry grin of regret, immediately apologizing for not remembering. One way or another, when he grinned like that, it made me think that his enthusiasm for saving Satoko was a tiny bit smaller than mine. He lightly hit the brakes, making a skidding noise, and my whole body suddenly fell forward. That is how? As somebody who is utterly stupid when it comes to driving and navigations and routing, how the heck did this guy just drive randomly without actually knowing where the house was and happen to end up at the house? That does not make any sense. Unless he just knew ahead of time. Okay, maybe he already knew. Before I knew it, we were almost to my house. Keiichi? Who the heck is this weird guy dropping off? That's Coach. He's a creeper, but he's kind of cool. What? Don't ask Mom. You don't need to know. New tips unlocked. Case file 31. Oh, boy! Plain to see. Met someone's relative. Ugh. I hate these achievements. Let's go to case 31. December 1st, 1981. Prefecture Juvenile Welfare Division Report. Do not view, do not duplicate. Case 31, November 20th. Satoko Hojo, redacted years old. Residence, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. 1. Consultation circumstances. Anonymous telephone SOS of child abuse. 2. Abuse situation. Anonymous claims that a female child is suffering physical abuse by adoptive parents, her guardians. 3. Family structure. Circle marks abusers. Adoptive father, adoptive mother. Older brother, child in question. Note: in June 1980, the child's parents died in an accident, and she was given to her uncle on her father's side, her father's younger brother. 4. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the anonymous telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. The next day, the welfare officer on duty visited the child's home and heard what they had to say. Both adoptive parents agreed to the center's coaching. Contacted anti-abuse network in the city. As part of this suggested coaching, a district welfare officer in the area began visiting for coaching at fixed intervals. The scrawled note below is stapled to the report. Related information from former officer Mr. W. Official, referred to the 1977 document D2-3, number 44. Ask Chief Investigator F from the city's education consultation offices. He is well informed about it. Mr. F. Looks like we're gonna have to find him out. Okay, so if anybody has played this or is familiar with this, how much more of the route do we have in terms of times? Because I think we have to end the stream here, because it is getting kind of late. But I'm curious to know if I'll be able to finish this in 2 more streams. Because at this point, there's only one more Sunday left in the month, so I was going to stream, obviously, on next Sunday, and I was also going to stream on Halloween to finish this. How many more hours of the route do you guys think is left? Or if people actually know and have played, how many hours do you think is left? Because I might have to plan of like, oh, I'm going to have to plan additional streams before then if I want to finish it before October's over. Because Halloween is on a work night, I really don't want to stay up till 3 a.m. and have to work the next day. I don't know. Maybe I'll look up just spoiler-free how much time it takes to beat it and like up the estimate a bit because I have to read these out loud physically instead of in my head. We might be heading towards the festival, which is usually the middle of the game. But the thing is, like, all of the interesting stuff is happening now before the festival, so... Okay, I'll look it up. We also have to finish Sacred Stone. We'll finish Sacred Stones this week regardless, so maybe I'll also replace the weekday streams with... I don't know, I'll have to figure something out, but that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for joining in, everybody. We'll finish Sacred Stones Wednesday and Friday of this week, and we will be continuing this on Sunday, and I'll have to figure out when we can finish this. So, have a great rest of your night, and God bless everybody.